Hey guys, I didn't feel like waiting the last 2 minutes. How's it going? I think I'll wait for a few more to come in before I start. I got some stuff to go over. Let me see which one. Okay, so these are the stories I'm going to go over tonight. Kari Lake refuses to participate in massive lawfare. They're doing the same shit to her that they're doing to Trump. Imagine she's MAGA, so why not, right? CNBC poll says voters want Trump to combat runaway inflation. Yeah, you think? That FTX guy, Sam Bankman-Fried, he got sentenced 25 years in prison. I got a lot to say for that. And then Biden, he snubbed the NYPD wake yesterday to go to this star-studded fundraiser for him, $100,000 a plate. And it was like a $25 million affair. And the Palestinian protesters got in and said, we don't like, hey, what's up? Wheat greatness. Sorry, man. Dyslexia is a terrible disease. But yeah, they these guys don't give a shit who it is. They went and they got in there. There's what is there? One president and two ex-presidents that are there, and these assholes go and start and look who's saving them. New York police officers. What asswipes. And we have Border Patrol Union president is literally warning about a coming amnesty. He must know something. The CIA, anytime I hear something about Operation Mockingbird, I want to do it. It says here that the CIA secretly used Operation Mockingbird to manipulate public perception through the media. We knew that, but this goes over how they do it. Biden regime funded radical international group. Can you believe this? He funded an international group to censor and smear American websites and news outlets. Gosh, I wonder what side of the political divide they're going after. And here's how the Baltimore Bridge collapse will affect all of America. Guys, it's a lot bigger than the press is letting on. I mean, that corridor is where everything, supply chain, it's where everything goes back and forth from north to south. Former Justice Breyer criticizes the conservative Supreme Court. This asshole comes out and does an interview to try to say that, oh, he can't stand that these conservative judges, they believe in the Constitution. They believe in originalism and textualism. Oh, my God. And here you go. Here's one that Steve wrote. Is Kellogg's cereal a serial killer? Too woke to prosecute? That's going to be good. So let me see. What do we got? All right, so we'll go down that list. Which one can I do? Let's go here. All right. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to play. Let me see. Is that up? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to play this. This is Kari Lake. It's like a couple minutes long, but where do you hear this, man? The way they're going after. And tell me if you can hear it.
If you knew how fragile
we got to go through the
power grid is, you'd be alarmed, susceptible to cyber attacks and sudden.
This new military gadget is the perfect tool to keep in your car. But be warned, this new tactical flashlight.
Hey, Arizona, when I first stepped into the political arena as a concerned mom and citizen politician, I could have never imagined how corrupt politics would be. Well, let me tell you, it is rotten to the core.
Yep.
The political elite will do anything to hold on to power and stop outsiders like me who they can't control. Washington, D.C. operates on blackmail and bribes. Since they can't blackmail or bribe me, they've resorted to filing a punishing lawsuit to try to stop me and bleed me dry. It's called lawfare, weaponizing the legal system to punish, impoverish, and destroy political opponents.
It's exactly what they're doing to Trump. Now they're doing it to her. And I don't know if you know this, but like last month or so, she revealed when the rhinos establishment tried to buy her.
We've all seen how they're doing it to President Trump. And here in Arizona, they're doing the exact same thing to me. They know that they can't beat either of us fair and square, so they hit us with lawsuits to keep us tied up and off the campaign trail. Because I've had the courage to speak out about our need for honest elections that all voters can have faith in, where every legal vote counts, because I've told you the truth about how our elections are being run, Elected government officials are punishing me with a frivolous lawsuit, and they're threatening to take everything I own. What they don't realize is even if they leave me, my husband, and children homeless and penniless, that won't stop us. We will continue to fight for Arizona. Behind this ridiculous lawsuit are a dozen East Coast lawyers funded by special interests who have rolled into Arizona to interfere in my campaign for U.S. Senate. It is a political witch hunt, and everyone knows it. By participating in this lawsuit, it would only serve to legitimize this perversion of our legal system and allow bad actors to interfere in our upcoming election. So I won't be taking part. Instead, I will focus and continue to focus on the issues that matter to the people of Arizona. Securing the border, bringing back our economy, improving healthcare and education.
Everything the Democrats
Arizona is worth fighting for, and that's exactly what I will continue to do. We have 7 months to save our country. November's election will decide the fate of America. We can't be distracted from what's truly important: securing a safe, affordable, and peaceful future for our children and our country. Thank you for your continued prayers and support as I push forward with this campaign. Let's make Arizona and America great.
Yeah, I mean, guys, they're going to do lawfare from now on. So what's up, Jeremiah? So I think the only way, I wrote this in a piece today that I did a story on this. I think the only way to do that, to make it stop, is that we do the same thing to them, that we make the process the punishment and we make it painful. The problem is the rhinos never make it painful. You know, after they're done cowering, they want to become friends again with the left and a bunch of pussies. So I think that we need to take their asses to court. I think we need to push the limits there and let them cry out and say, oh, you're doing, this is just lawfare. Yeah, well, F you. Look what you guys did. I mean, they've been doing lawfare on Trump since the minute he came down the escalator, have they not? You know, so and Kari, I mean, she needs to hire a food taster because they really fucking hate her because she was supposed to be one of them. She was a news woman, right? She was a reporter, like an actual journalist who did news. And so they probably thought she was going to be a left winger outside of her news. Not really. So they can't stand her. They hate her. They hate her guts. So I mean, yeah, it was a couple months ago now. I think it was a year ago that it happened, but a couple months ago, she revealed the video of they sent a guy to her home, and he was to bribe her to say, how much do you want to bail out of the Senate race? Can you believe that shit? And now they hate her even more because she exposed them. So they hate her ass even more. Let me see, what else do we have here? Yeah, you're right, Jeremiah. They are terrified of her, which is why they're going to treat her that way. Okay, so the next one. Let's go. Cool. Let's do this. I'm going to do the CNBC one. Where is it? There it is. Okay, so CNBC voters want voters want Trump to combat runaway inflation. Yeah, look at the smug smile on his face at that dinner. That's awesome. The supposed job creation under Joe Biden means nothing if paychecks get chopped down at the knee. You know, it's also when they say that, you know, inflation's coming down now. Oh, really? Great. What about the fucking prices? You know, because it's inflation actually adds up. It's cumulative, if I can say that word. It's cumulative. And so if you have like 10% inflation one year and you got 3% the next year, now you got 13% inflation because everything that you like if it's like, let's be realistic, if it's 8.5%, okay, everything that's manufactured under 8.5% inflation, right? Well, you manufacture that shit and then you get it out into the supply chain, then it goes into warehouses and then the stores come out and pick it up and then they put it on their shelves. Well, just because now a year later it could be 4%, doesn't mean that the price is going to go down to what it was if it was manufactured under 4%, you know? Let me see. What's he saying? Watching HB yesterday, this sack of shit Pac-Man was so gleeful that he was on the Baltimore Bridge before the accident. He he was mining for content and gloating and are you serious? Bobby, he was on the bridge. I thought he's from Cali. What's he doing on the Baltimore Bridge? Unbelievable. Or was he saying, I was on it years ago and I'm just glad it didn't happen to me? What a loser. Anyway, so let's get back to this. So the supposed job creation under Joe Biden means nothing if the paychecks get chopped down at the knee. That's what his inflationary measures have done. Rich white liberals who shop at Whole Foods don't know this that's exactly right. Like the rich people, they can, I don't have a problem. It doesn't hit them yet. You know, people like you and me, you know, we go to the supermarket every week. You know, I mean, we can afford to live, but when it goes up a certain amount, it's like $4 gasoline. When it hits $4, that's when Americans have to wonder, like, do we take the kids out for ice cream at the end of the week? Do we go on vacation this year? You know, so they say that the people at Whole Foods, they don't know this. We shop at Whole Foods as they can absorb the higher costs. For everyone else, the trip to the local market becomes an exercise in being skinned alive. CNBC was quite clear that voters are now seeing Trump as the great savior of our inflation crisis.
I think voters have decided the cure for inflation is not Biden.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's one part of it. And then maybe there's a sense that Trump might spend less. He's seen also in other data we have better on the federal deficit, better on taxes. So that might also.
Now, Trump spent a lot of money. Okay. Let's not kid ourselves, but he had COVID. You know, he had every news organization and every Democrat champing at the bit for him to spend money, and then they could blame him for the deaths anyway. That's what was going on. So it says, forget that most of the Biden jobs have been revised week after the release. Yeah, it's right. You know, we had this many thousands. Oh, no, we had to do, you know, they say it very loudly up front, and then it's like on page Z10. When they revise it, right? We have a looming commercial real estate crisis primed to nuke the economy, requiring a TARP-like package to avoid total oblivion. We also have a banking crisis. Things haven't stabilized since the fall of Silicon Valley Bank last year. Y'all remember that? So they're saying the banks are about to collapse as well. Yeah, wonderful. Almost half the country feels poorer now than they did 4 years ago. That's the one thing that if Biden says this, do you feel better off today than you did 4 years ago? Then vote for me. How the hell is this jackass going to be able to say that? But you know what? They'll just, you know, give him some extra Adderall or whatever the hell they're feeding him and tell him to go out there and say it, and he will. That's an election killer. It normally is, but, you know, they don't have their dominion years ago. It's got to the point or even those who didn't vote for Trump in 2016 or 2020 due to his personality issues, which I love. I think, you know, telling the left to go fuck a rock, I think that's great, right? It says his personality issues are willing to accept that aspect of his presidency if he controls things. That's right. You know, people, I always say people vote with their wallets. Everybody does. And there's nothing you can do to stop that. I mean, you know, it comes down to it when it's 4 years out. You know, you get into all the political ideologies. You know, he's a socialist, he's a conservative, you know, all that bullshit. But in the end, when things get really bad, it means that things are bad enough. And that's when people vote with their wallet, and their wallets are all yearning for Trump. I mean, that's what's going on. So now we have this piece of crap. FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried sentenced to 25 years in prison for fraud. The former crypto king was convicted of defrauding $8 billion from investors of the now bankrupt cryptocurrency exchange. I heard they reopened it, like they reorged it, got a new guy in there and reopened it. A federal judge on March 28 sentenced FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried to 25 years in prison for defrauding investors of $8 billion via the fallen cryptocurrency exchange. District Judge Lewis Kaplan, who cares, handed down the sentence at a Manhattan court hearing after rejecting Bankman-Fried's claim that FTX customers did not actually lose money and accusing him of lying during his trial testimony. Uh-oh. In November 2023, jurors convicted Fried of all 7 counts of conspiracy and fraud with which government lawyers charge him. Let me tell you something. There's a lot that they're not talking about. Hey, Dr. Who, what up, man? Hey, Jade, how you doing? Yeah, you're only 14 minutes. That's all right. I didn't even get started yet. So Sam Bankman-Fried, okay? A lot of people don't know this because they didn't want you to know it, but he gave a huge donation to a Ukraine fund. Okay. And it was a few years ago. He gave a really big donation to them. And somehow, wink, wink, he got the government of Ukraine to then invest in FTX. All right. That money that they sent to FTX used that, Sam Bankman-Fried and cohorts, they used that to fund every Democrat campaign during the 2022 midterm elections, every single one. And so, I mean, I did multiple stories on how what they were doing with this FTX, they were going around and purchasing small banks. And I mean, small banks, like I can't remember the name of the bank, but I think it was in Missouri. And it was just a bank for the town. They weren't even part of FDIC. They weren't part of the Federal Reserve Bank. All they did was they were a local bank. They had checking, savings. They didn't do anything that would require getting on the wires, right? So these schmucks would then go out and buy those banks for a price. What's up, Nano? Good to see you. They would buy their banks at a price that they couldn't refuse, right? And so they would then within 72 hours, they would be on the Federal Reserve list, which is unheard of. It takes months to get on the list, okay? Because they have to do all their due diligence. So, because they don't want to. Mags, wake up! My dog's like dreaming, but they don't want any bank that wants to join the system if they're scammers or if they're not going to be strong enough to hold on to their bank during a crisis, stuff like that. They got to do all the due diligence and they got to turn in the paperwork, and it's crazy what they got to do. But these guys got them in 72 hours. Okay, so they knew someone that got them in there. Now, why? Well, because they made a shitload of money off them. What they were doing was they used these small banks to launder money, being able to go out to wire money to like Cayman Islands, wherever the hell, Ukraine, wherever the hell they were going to wire them to. And that's how they laundered a shitload of money overseas, and then overseas wired it back, and they funded all the Democrats, among many other people. But let's get down to this. He knew it was wrong, Judge Kaplan said of Bankman-Fried before handing down the sentence. He knew it was criminal. He regrets that he made very bad bet. You know what? He didn't make a bad bet. Think about this, guys. If this were like an uploaded video, I would have photos of him with low IQ Maxine Waters, with Nancy Pelosi, with all the Democrats and all the influencers in sports and whatnot in Hollywood. I mean, all these assholes, they bought into it. They paid them handsomely to do these commercials and get people to buy into it. I think the Democrats knew exactly what he was doing, because he was named as the second largest contributor to the Democratic Party next to George Soros. So that's a shit ton of money that he was giving up. And so I think that's the only reason why they haven't whacked him yet. And they realize that he's not going to talk, but he's got 25 years to think about that. So he better hire a food taster if nothing else. Let's see. This next one is, here's one. So I did a video on the fact that Joe Biden snubbed the NYPD officer's wake, and he was 40 miles away, which is a 10-minute helicopter ride from where Trump was. Trump went to the wake and met with the family and gave his condolences, gave a little speech. It was very presidential, and Biden couldn't be bothered, right? So these motherfuckers, they go. It's a $25 million celebrity-stunted New York City fundraiser, and the pro-Palestinians got in. Palestinian protesters got in. So you think about that. They had two former presidents, and the current president of the United States was there. I don't know if Kamala was there, because I don't think she could be at an event like that with him there, but who gives a shit? But they had all these A-list celebrities there and whatnot, and these jackasses come in. Pro-Palestinian protesters were seen clashing with police on the streets of New York City on Thursday, near where President Joe Biden was attending a fundraiser with former presidents Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. Similar to other events, video showed several protesters shoving police while chanting pro-Palestinian slogans. I wonder if any of them are going to find themselves in the DC Gitmo. I don't think so. But let's see. Breaking chaotic scenes are unfolding as hundreds of pro-Palestinian protesters clash. Let's see.
You're escalating. We're on the sidewalk. We're on the fucking sidewalk.
Look at this.
Wheelchair!
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 Mostly peaceful, right? Hey, radio music. These people are nuts. They never give up. And think about this, guys. These guys are the Jew haters. And so the Democrats should love them, right? But they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. What can they do? Right? I know, strange chant. Watch her dog. But think about it. So they're supposed to be in love with a Democrat administration. Or so we're supposed to believe, right? Because, they're the ones that want to, have a ceasefire, throw all the money at them, feed them, all that, let them kill Jews. And here they're attacking every Democrat they possibly can. They went after a Hochul speech a few weeks ago. I think they always fuck with Eric Adams whenever he pokes his head out. And now they're going after the president. But still, it's nothing like during the St. George Floyd riots when they almost breached the White House. Do you remember that? When they had those giant fences and they were rocking them. And I think it was 50 Secret Service agents were harmed during that. The left in general are a bunch of animals. Let me see. Hold on. Live now. I wrote lice now. Shit. She'd be like, what the hell are you talking? Yeah, strange chant. Let me see. What else is there? We did that. Yeah. So where do you see this? So let's do this. So Border Patrol Union president warns of a coming amnesty. What did I say all along? That they were going to try to push an amnesty. And he'll do it by executive order, which he's not allowed, but he will. National Border Patrol President Brandon Judd, let's go, Brandon, told the New York Post on Wednesday that the Biden administration reduces the number of migrant encounters at the southern border by flying migrants into the country. Yeah, they do that, and they fly them directly in from Latin America now, but then they also take a lot of them, fly them up to Canada, and bring them in through that way. It's unbelievable. Oh, we've lowered the amount. Fucking lying piece of shit. So he also said he expects an amnesty program in the future to accommodate the millions who have come into the country since the president took office in 2021. But they're going to do this right before the election. You just know it. And he'll do it by executive order in just enough time so that when the Republicans file claims against it, it'll take the Supreme Court too long to get to them through the chain. And they should do that one route where they can just bypass everything. A state should. But by the time they get there, the election will be over. And go, oh, well, sorry. And then the court will say, you can't give amnesty that way. Only Congress can do that. They have to vote upon it, and then you sign it. But can't do it by executive order. But then the damage is done. The election's over, and they'll tell us, okay, everybody shut the fuck up and do what we tell you. We own the guns. Democrats are desperate, and Biden is talking about it openly. So did Schumer. Amnesty for people here for 10 years. So you broke the law for 10 friggin' years, and your reward is you get amnesty. Well, if you were here for 10 years, yeah, it's like saying, I was beating this woman every day for 10 years. So I should get an award for that. Unbelievable. He's going to do this via executive order. In other words, we're under a dictatorship. Quote, they're just paroling people in through paroling them in. I never heard that. They're just paroling people in through airports rather than having them come across the border. That's right. They're just going to keep the numbers at around 5,000. I don't think so. They're going to be way over 5,000. Parole people in and say, oh, look, we cut the numbers. Yeah, they're full of shit. We know that. We're still 5 times higher than we should be, Judd continued, but lower than the record number of apprehensions at the southern border. Gosh, I wonder what president that was under. Biden gives legal status to 30,000 illegals a month. Can you believe this shit? So they go, they're not illegal. I gave them legal status. And a Texas court allowed it. Had to be in Austin. Less than 1% of Biden's CBP-1 applications were rejected. They had a mobile app where you can say, hey, I'm going to be here. Pick me up and bring me in. I mean, how effed up is that? Jesus Christ. I don't know how this country survives if they win again. I don't. Let's see. Radical International Group. Yeah, that's another good one. Let's do that. Come on, open up. Yeah, this one was done by Steve. It is, let's see. Let's get rid of that. So it's a Biden regime funded Radical International Group to censor and smear American websites and news outlets. So the American administration is hiring international groups to censor. So how is that? You know what it is? Because they lost Twitter. So they got to have someone to help censor them, right? So they're going to radical international groups to censor. Unbelievable. America First Legal. I think that's not Sebastian. I forget his name. He and his son run it. America First Legal revealed on Monday that Joe Biden was paying radical foreign operatives to try to bring down conservative news outlets. America First Legal discovered that the Biden regime was funding Imran Ahmed, I hope I murdered his name, and his website, the Center for Countering Digital Hate. You know, I mean, think about it. Think about it. They come up with these great sounding names, the Center for Countering Digital Hate, and they're probably the hate fest in chief. Ahmed uses his website in order to cause havoc with conservative news outlets. America First Legal released their report from the Gateway Pundit. Today, America First Legal released documents obtained from its investigation of the Biden administration's communications with Nimrod Ahmed and his UK-based censorship group, the Center for Countering Digital Hate. The emails from the Department of Homeland Security, can you believe this shit? Emails from the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of State show how the Biden administration mobilized the federal government's counterterrorism assets to support CDDH's global censorship campaign. Biden mobilizes national security state for censorship. Guys, what in the hell is going on? And why did they let them do it? I mean, where the hell are these pussy Republicans? Why? Let me see. Tell people to leave their doors unlocked and then show them. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, guys, our goddamn administration is setting these things up. They're reaching out to radical organizations and they're targeting people based on how they vote. Think about that. It's like in New York City, I heard that when who was it? Hochul went to go to the wake of the NYPD officer, Dillon, and Jonathan Dillon. And I think the Benevolent Association of Officers just approached her and said, get the hell out now. Don't come in here. You're not welcome. And I think Eric Adams didn't even want to go in because he knew that they hate his ass too. But I mean, it's getting New York is like a cesspool now. It's getting really bad there. I don't know what the hell they're going to do to fix that, even if Trump gets in. From the day it took power, the Biden administration mobilized the national security state to support its censorship program on June 15, 2021. Think about that. In his first year, Biden's National Security Council published its first ever national strategy for countering domestic terrorism. That's us. We're the domestic terrorists that they're talking about. Look at this shit. To justify censorship, they justify censorship. There's no justification for government censorship. There just isn't. To justify censorship, Biden's strategy asserted that internet-based communications platforms make Americans vulnerable to domestic terrorist recruitment and other harmful content. Effectively, like they don't send messages out through Twitter and through TikTok, like where they're going to converge. Like those Palestinian protesters didn't use any platforms at all to communicate inter-based messaging that where they were going to go, right? Like we're supposed to believe that. Kiss my Irish ass. Or let's see what it says. Biden administration, allied technology companies, and to censor political opponents in Orwellian fashion. It said, all told, a better, more holistic and coordinated understanding and of information sharing on today's threat will allow a more effective and comprehensive response. Oh my God. That response will address not just current and imminent incarcerations of the domestic terrorism threat, but guys, think about this. Conservatives believe in the rule of law. They believe in the Constitution, and we're the domestic terrorist. You have Joe Biden, who did that Independence Hall speech, right? It's like 20 miles from where I am. He did that Independence Hall speech, and he came out. That's the first time where he came out and said those MAGA extremists, right? And he went through it. And he said, you know, they don't believe in due process. They don't believe in the Declaration of Independence. They don't believe in the Constitution. I mean, projecting everything onto us. Hey, what's up, Vamps? And but the fact of the matter is, these guys, I mean, look what they're doing. They're getting government involved in censorship of their political opponents, no matter what. They're using lawfare against MAGA extremists. They're using lawfare against Trump now, Kari Lake, as we showed earlier, and probably dozens of others. We got that guy Mark Halk, who is running against my piece of crap congressman. His name's Brian Fitzpatrick. He has a conservative review score of like 32. I mean, he's horrible. You know, he puts up giant billboards that say he brags that he is, what is he? Most bipartisan member of Congress 3 years running, which means he votes with the Democrats most of the time. Well, Mark Halk is the guy who's a pro-life guy for years, and he and his son with the group, they were within the 500 feet distance from an abortion clinic, and they were doing their prayer vigil, all that. And one of the assholes inside, one of the workers, went up and started messing with his son, and he shoved the guy away and said, "Whoa, what are you doing? You can't. He's a kid. Leave him alone," and all that. And so next thing you know, you got like 6 black vehicles showing up, you know, with FBI busting his door down. The guy's got like 8 children, right? Busting the door down in front of all the kids and arresting them and shoving them off. Well, you know what? He's running. He's running for Congress right now, and I hope he kicks the shit out of Brian Fitzpatrick. Brian Fitzpatrick is a guy who puts out YouTube commercials right before an election, and I'll never forget the one he put out on 2022 where he said, you know, we have to stop the Democrats from trying to take away our gun rights, right? And he says, you know, the Second Amendment is sacred, especially to Pennsylvanians, because it is up here, right? But then the first thing he does when he gets reelected is he joins the Democrats in doing an assault weapons ban, whatever that is, right? I drive an assault weapon car, you know? I mean, what the hell is an assault weapon? You know, if they're and they use the term assault weapon because they can't say automatic weapon because they've been banned in this country since the 1930s, right? You can still get them, but you got to, I mean, you have to be filthy rich to get them because you're going to spend $10,000 to $15,000 on getting the licenses and whatnot just to get one to put up in your trophy room, you know? But unbelievable. Was that South Carolina just made guns? Nice. Yeah, we're open carry here in Pennsylvania, and I have my concealed, but we're also open carry. But I'll tell you what, you know, you walk down the street open carry, a cop will fuck with you. They will. You know, what do you got your gun on for? None of your business, officer. Get over here. No, I don't have to. You know. And then when I got my carry license, they told me, the sheriff's office said, look, only you and us know that you have this. You don't have to tell anyone. And I said, what about if I get pulled over? They said, if you're carrying and the officer asks, like pulled over for a traffic violation, they said, if the officer asks if you have weapons, you say, yes, and I have my carry permit here. And I said, well, what if he asks to see the weapon? She goes, you don't have to give it to him. I said, oh, yeah, how's that going to work out? And I said, because I heard that when you hand it over, they don't give it back. And she smiled. She goes, only in Philly. Can you imagine that? So they know, the sheriff's office knows that Philly cops sometimes confiscate your gun. It says, every thug and gang member is carrying concealed, but we know laws are ultimately about disarmament. Oh, that's what it is, dude. Yeah, they're doing, the Biden administration is doing everything it can, including they're talking about, I know that Barack Obama tried something, but it didn't work. He tried buying up all the ammunition that he could. Do you remember that? Ammunition was very difficult to get, and it caused the price to go up, as a matter of fact, because that's, supply and demand there. But he figured, well, I can buy up all the ammo and people won't be able to kill each other. What a moron. What an absolute moron. Let me see. Next time you see a cop, you should scream, he has a gun. Can you imagine that? Yeah, exactly. All guns transition to 3D. Yeah. I mean, think about that. You can make them now. You can make a gun now out of that plastic mold in a 3D printer. How about that? At least in the movies, anyway. Yeah. So I mean, the first thing they do is they take your guns. I wrote a piece one time that got over 1 million views. I mean, like $3,000 on that one article. But it was about how in the Weimar Republic, they convinced the people to have a gun registry, because they said, well, look, if the police know who owns a gun and there's a crime committed, well, then we know who to question first, right? And so the people, they fell for it, right? And they didn't realize that within a few years, there was this little old party called the Nazis that were going to get elected into office. They're still doing it here, IRS. Yeah, millions of rounds. Yeah. And well, that's exactly what Obama said when people started bitching to him about it. Like, why is the government? They go, well, every one of these departments, they have a SWAT team. So I got to think, like, why does the Bureau of Land Management have a SWAT team? What's the point of that? Why have a SWAT team? And so he said, they got to practice and they need to have ammunition. Oh, yeah. So they have to practice and have ammunition all while you're president. But nothing that serious when you're not, right? So it was a stupid ploy that he was doing to either raise the price of ammo so regular people can't afford that much of it, or to just get it off the market. But the ammunition manufacturers, they doubled down to keep it going. Now, I mean, I get emails all the time for really good prices of ammo. But so I guess that's gone. But Biden, holy crap, man. He's done so many things already to try to stop you from being able to own a firearm. And I mean, he doesn't have the right. But then again, the Supreme Court told him not long ago he didn't have the right to do, the loan forgiveness, the debt forgiveness for the deadbeats that don't want to pay for their school loans. And he's still doing it anyway. So there's another one I have here. Let me see what it is. Regime. Here's how former judge and Kellogg's. Where's the last one? Yeah, I had another one where he was just smacked down. Let me see if I can find that. Yeah, Biden was just smacked down by a judge, a federal judge, on something else. Yeah, smacked down. Yeah, here we go. So let me do this. Okay, I just wrote this afternoon. Federal judge smacks down Biden's climate mandate for states to set climate targets. Yeah, he was trying to force states to set this climate change targeting. In other words, to get down to zero carbon whatever by whatever year, right? A first-year law someone who read the Constitution could tell you right away that he doesn't have the authority to do that. They get away with so much shit that they want to do, and people, I honestly think that our public education system keeps people ignorant of this kind of stuff, because they want they're all in, the liberals in the teachers unions, they're all in. And so they want people to not know that, hey, the government doesn't have the right to do any goddamn thing at once, right? They don't. So it has on Wednesday, a federal court smacked down a Biden administration rule that required states and cities to set transportation climate targets. Anyone who read the Constitution could have told them that the federal government has no authority over states for anything that isn't found in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. That's what they call the enumeration clause, right? It's where they give 18 powers that the Congress has. When they say Congress, they really meant federal government, because Congress creates the laws, the executive branch executes the laws. So, and it says, or a power the states gave to the federal government through a ratified amendment. So that's the only thing they can do. Like Obamacare. I didn't see that in the enumerated powers, and we don't have an amendment. Guess what? The government's not allowed to do it. Social Security, right? Medicare, Medicaid, right? They're all illegal. They're all unconstitutional, but who's going to stop them now, right? Judge James Hendricks, a Trump appointee, sided with the Republican-led states that sued over the rules, saying the Biden administration lacked authority to order them to set the targets. Now, how much you want to bet Biden says, fuck that judge? Because he said, fuck the Supreme Court. I'm going to do the loan forgiveness anyway because I need young people votes, right? So what makes you think that he's going to adhere to this? Hendricks argued that the administration had no legal authority to use environmental benchmarks and state assessments of highway performance. And I wrote there, how much do you want to bet? I just said, I repeat myself. The judge wrote that the legislation that states that the performance of interstate national highway systems refers to the infrastructure's effectiveness in facilitating travel, commerce, and national defense, not environmental outputs of vehicles using systems. This administration takes the tiniest little gap in a rule, in a law, in an executive order, and tries to break it wide open. They did the same thing when he did his forced mandate for the jab, right? He tried to say that the Department of Commerce could do it. What? I mean, I'm told by the smart people that I can do this. I have the authority. He was told by nobody. The Federal Highway Administration's order obliged state and municipal transportation authorities to set targets for reducing greenhouse gas. It's all a bunch of horse shit. It's all this climate change nonsense, this watermelon, green on the outside, red on the inside. I mean, think about it. The communists won't be happy until we're back in the 1800s. It's true. It's true. They think that they can use climate change to go against capitalism is what it is. They hate capitalism because the world can't stand it when America has a good time. And so they have to end it. A representative from the Highway Administration, which is part of the Transportation Department, Pete Buttigieg, said that the agency was analyzing the decision and determining the next steps. The spokeswoman emphasized the administration's commitment to combating climate change. In other words, the lawyers in the department are trying to come up with ways to circumvent the Constitution, states' rights, and the judge's ruling. I mean, that's all we have to take out of that. World War III, folks. We about have, yeah. You know what? Some people think it already began. Seriously, some people think it already began. Legislative makes the laws, executive breaks the laws. That's exactly right. What's this? Poland just suspended major arms agreement with Russia. How about that, man? What's up, Chris? Eugenicists would ban photosynthesis if they could. That's pretty good. Linda, how you doing, girl? Good to see you. How about you keep the rubber on the road, the trains on the tracks, and the ships in the sea lanes? Yeah, well, you know what? There was another thing that went out. Laura Logan went on the War Room, and she talked about we ain't fighting anyone. I know. Laura Logan, independent journalist, she went out and went on to the War Room and spoke with Bannon about the collapse of the Baltimore Bridge, the Francis Scott Key Bridge. And she literally came out and said that she has people who are in the government that are in the know, that are telling her that they're telling everybody it was an accident, but they know that it was a hit, that it was an attack, and that it was a cyber attack that caused this. And when you think about it, there was tons and tons of chemicals that just went into the water in those container ships. And there was tons of gasoline that went in, like were in those container ships that went into the water. And so now they're saying that because of that, they have to pull every last bit of that bridge out before they can rebuild it. They just have to yank it all out, including the pillars, the cement pillars, before they can start all over again. So they're saying it's between 4 and 5 years before that waterway is good again. That waterway was an important corridor for getting the supply chain from north to south in the United States. The only other one is on the West Coast. There's one that's even busier. So we got to keep an eye on that. But now they're saying that it's going to be very difficult to get things to and fro from the north and south to north. All because of that. And I believe, you know, that we had the Chinese a couple months ago put out, they were bragging about it, guys. They were bragging about it. They're saying, I did a story on it. They were saying that they were going to start doing psychological warfare through hacking. They had a psychological warfare cyber unit that was going to hack our infrastructure, and they were going to do things to make like the American people like fight each other, right? Like killing supply chain. There's a good way to get Americans to fight each other, because when some people have more than others because supply chain, what's that going to lead to on the streets in neighborhoods, right? And so they said that they wanted to actually get it to the point where Americans are so frustrated with what they're going to do to us that we're just going to surrender when they come. That literally they're saying this. That same general that I talked about before said this to the CCP of how they were going to try to colonize the U.S. And so now I think because they bought Biden, the Chinese bought him, right? So I think that they believe, since he's an idiot, I mean, he's mentally not there, that he's going to go with what they told him to do for the money, right? And that they're going to try to do this before he leaves office. So I don't know what the hell is going to happen. Was they could clear the ceiling quick. Ferry again. Work around. Not here, they can't. No, that thing is that's going to be very difficult to get around. Let's see, what's another one? Yeah, here's one. Let's see. So, is Kellogg's cereal a serial killer? Too woke to prosecute? Steve finds these stories. A new study shows that Kellogg's Trix is loaded, all right, loaded with heavy metals and other agrochemicals. Levels of toxic heavy metals, arsenic and cadmium, present in 2 samples of loaded Trix flavor. I never even heard of loaded. I haven't eaten cereal in like 30 years. Loaded Trix flavor were 200 to 400% higher than EPA allowable levels in drinking water. Aluminum levels were as high as 3,500 ppb, whatever that is, making Trix loaded cereal a toxic way to start the day, according to EU standards, if eaten daily. Aluminum levels were at 1365 and 1650, higher than EPA maximum allowable. How do they get away with this shit? Moms Across America director Zen Honeycutt states, these test results show it is high time that cereal manufacturers such as General Mills make better choices in sourcing cleaner ingredients. These toxins, I can't speak tonight, present in cereal market to parents and children as containing vitamins implying a healthy choice are unconscionable and obviously highly unhealthy. What we need is cereal loaded with nutrition and free from toxins. Now, you remember the days where we would say, buy this, because you had the little prize inside. Remember that shit? I think too many kids choked on the prizes, so that's why they stopped them. I see. You can mine to cereal industry instead of conventional mining. Just buy at the nearest convenience store. Would you feed yourself or a kid a loaded trick? PCB is plastic pellets. Yeah, it's unbelievable. And they say that shit that, like, if you have the PCB and you just touching the plastic, like if it's in a bottle or something, that it could translate into your body. It could transfer into your body. Miners eating mining cast. Yeah, then you got a crossword on the back. Oh boy. But dude, it's like every year you find out something's bad for you, and then the next year it's healthy again. Right now, coffee's in, right? Eggs are back in, but they're trying to say eggs are bad for the heart again, but they're not. It's crazy. It's like these people want to justify their existence at whatever organizations these are that they're doing. Let's see if I have another one. Yeah, Trump. I did that video. Trump went, oh, hold on. Yeah, here you go. So the GOP wins big in crucial Pennsylvania mail voting lawsuit. I don't know how big they won, but in what is to be considered unusual, the GOP has scored a huge victory in the state of Pennsylvania as the U.S. Third Circuit Court of Appeals reversed on Wednesday the order of a federal district court that votes without dates cannot be counted. This applies to mail-in ballots. Now, this is what gets me. Article 1, Section 4 of our Constitution says that the state legislature creates the laws, election laws, okay, that no one else has that right. Okay, so during 2020, you had Mark Elias, who went around. He's a scumbag Democrat lawyer that steals elections. And he took his legal team around to the key battleground states, and he came to Pennsylvania, and he made his way all the way to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, which is like 70-30 Democrat, right? And out of their minds Democrats. And he got them to change election law to extend the date that the law said that mail-in ballots were no longer allowed to be accepted, which was 8 p.m. election day. It's reasonable, right? If you're all polls close at 8 p.m., right? And they say, yeah, but if they're in the mail, no, if they're in the mail, fuck you. It says 8 p.m. If they're not accepted at that point, that's it. Well, you had the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled, give it an extra 3 days. Now, why did they do that? Because if Trump won by 150,000 votes, right, they needed 3 days to manufacture 151,000 votes, right? Then we had Kathy Boockvar, who was a piece of shit Secretary of State, and she broke the law by changing election law, by adding a deadline to the deadline for when people that vote by provisional ballots could prove who they were. And the reason for that was, well, we're going to have all these other ballots coming in, and they're going to be, for those 3 days that the Supreme Court gave them. And so we want to throw a shit ton of provisional ballots that are phony as well. And this way, if there's too many of them, by the time we count them all, well, the election's over and everything's done. I mean, the whole thing was coordinated. The Supreme Court shot her down, and she resigned in disgrace. Hang on a sec. Somebody just sent me a message. Yeah, she resigned in disgrace, but we still have to deal with our Supreme Court. So Democrats tried to make the claim that the materiality, is that the word? Materiality, yeah, provision established in section of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. He calls it now the maternity provision, states that prohibits denial of the right to vote because of an error or omission on paperwork related to any application, registration, or other act requisite to voting. Why are the Democrats fighting to allow these votes to be counted regardless of state and federal laws? I think it's rather obvious. Yeah, it is rather obvious because they're cheating. The third, from the Daily Wire, the Third Circuit decision in which 2 of the 3 judges concurred, all 3 appointed by Democrats, explained states have, look at that shoe, blocking the, states have separate bodies of rules for separate stages of the voting process. Yes, because of Article 1, Section 4. It gives them the right to make the processes up. One stage, voter qualification, deals with who votes. To register and thus be authorized to vote, applicants must follow prescribed steps and meet certain requirements. It's like obtaining a license to drive. Another stage deals with how ballots are cast by those previously authorized to vote, which is governed by a different set of rules. To cast a ballot that is valid and will be counted, all qualified voters must abide by certain requirements. Just like those authorized to drive must obey the state's traffic laws like everyone else. The materiality provision is an important federal overlay on state election requirements during the who stage voter qualification. It prohibits states from denying an applicant the right to vote based on an error or omission. And see, what they're saying is that they have rules in there that so somebody can't get screwed, like I want to vote. Yeah, sign your name here. Oh, wait a minute. It says you're dead. Well, I'm right here. I'm not dead. Or it says you already voted. Well, I didn't. I'm right here. So they give you provisional ballots. But the Democrats abuse that every chance they get. They'll use every little thing. Leanne, how are you, girl? Joe Biden creates jobs. He can't even make a sandwich. You're right. You're right. I thought that was an absentee ballot. Yeah, an absentee ballot is usually for the military, and then they started saying, well, if you're on business and you gotta be in another state. No, fuck that. If you're in the military, you're ordered to go overseas. Yeah, you should be able to vote absentee. But I mean, somebody has to have some responsibility for voting, right? Mental absentee ballot. Yeah, that's for Biden. But somebody has to be able, we have to be able to say, guys, well, it's my right to vote. Yes, and every right, you have a responsibility. So get your ass down. Now they don't even have to leave their house. That's what ballot harvesting is all about. A lot of people don't understand. It's very simple. They have a list of people who didn't vote. There's people who are just friggin' lazy. They don't want to go out. go 3 doors down and cast votes down, whatever, right? So now these assholes go running up to the door and go, hey, you didn't vote yet, but I have your ballot right here. You want to sign it? You know, and that's how they get these shit tons of other, because they don't even have to leave their home. So now they get the shit ton of these other votes that come in. Yeah, they don't even have, it should be military only. And I'm going to be out of town. Well, tough shit. You should have made a provision up for yourself to be able to be here and vote. You know, the Democrats are the ones. I don't think there's a single gourmet type of voting that was ever created by the Republicans. The Republicans say, look, it should be on election day only, and you should show up to vote. That's your civic duty, right? The Democrats, oh, no, we've got these people that they just don't know how, they're too stupid to get an ID. And I mean, think of all the bullshit they come up with. How embarrassing must it be for them to know that black people have caught on to them, have said, you know, you motherfucker, you're telling me that I don't know how to get a goddamn ID. I don't know how to vote. I don't know how to get a driver's license, something I got to use every single day to go anywhere, to buy anything. Really? You know, I mean, how insulting is that? But they've been doing that for years now because they don't want voter ID, because voter ID is one of the best ways that you can prevent the cheating. I should be able to vote. Yeah, while you're on the toilet, bigot. Yeah. I should get to vote 5 times, once for each personality. There you go. Cotton Dawn. Let me see. He spent money rebuilding. Yeah. Cottoned on you. Might even say. Oh, that's funny. All right. I think this portion is over. So I'm gonna put the invite out. Anybody wants to come in, come on in. And there it is. You guys want to come in? It's okay with me. Leanne, you can come on. I tried to get Colin to come in. I sent him a Facebook message, and I don't even think he's seen it yet. Yeah, there's no notification. I sent it 2 hours ago. There's no notification that he saw it. Jimmy, you still here? Let me do this. Let me see what else there is. Maybe. Oh, this is one last one that I want to talk about. This is funny. Yeah, here we go. Hey, there she is. Hey, girl.
Hey, how you doing? Happy Easter, everybody.
Happy Easter. This is my dear friend from Alabama.
That's
Roll
right.
Tide.
Roll Tide. And did you see us?
Yeah, you come in too, Jade. The link's
night?
there. If you need it again,
What's that?
let me know.
What's that?
No, I'm talking to Jade. She's coming in too. But if you need the link again, I'll put it out. Yep. Happy Easter, ma'am. Let me do this. Let me do this one right now. Where the hell is it? Yeah, I have it here. So former Justice Breyer, leftist, criticizes conservative Supreme Court. The conservative embrace of originalism, get this, the conservative embrace of originalism and textualism is both misguided and doomed. Guys, in other words, let's not go by what the guys who actually dreamed up the Constitution, what they have to say. You know, fuck them. Who are they? You know, former Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer, who retired almost 2 years ago. He didn't retire. They pushed his ass out. Criticized because they knew that they wanted to get someone to replace him because he was old, and they didn't want Trump back in office. Criticized the increasingly conservative lean of the court that accelerated in the Trump years. See, they can't stand it when the system works the way it's supposed to work, but it didn't work in their favor. All right, the liberal former justice made the comments in a Politico interview that was published this week. Commentators say the Supreme Court has moved to the right since President Bill Clinton appointed Justice Breyer to the court in 1994. Well, they had their years to fuck up our country. Now we're going the other way. President Donald Trump's appointments of 3 conservative justices, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Coney Barrett, helped to set the stage for the court to overturn Roe v. Wade and affirmative action in college admissions and recognize a constitutional right to keep and bear arms for public self-defense. Well, first of all, Roe v. Wade is a state issue, right? Affirmative action, what they did in college admissions, they got rid of affirmative action because the colleges started screwing over people that were more qualified to get in. Like the Asians were much better than anybody else with their grade point average overall. Okay, not always, but overall, there's always outliers. But they were screwing them over to let people who didn't work as hard in. So and that's when they realized they didn't need it anymore.
Well, yeah, but you've got all this diversity, inclusion, equity crap that they keep pouring. Well, where are all the short midget Asians in the basketball leagues? Where are they? Why are they not on the team?
I know. It's true.
You know,
it's absolutely true.
And where's the diversity in the NBA? Where's the diversity in the NFL? Where's the diversity in 95% of the sports in this country? Where's the diversity in the entertainment industry? Where is there? We do not have a white entertainment network. We got the BET. What the hell does that mean?
Yeah. Well, see, in sports, a lot of people don't like this. Doesn't hit them in the face when it should. In sports, it truly is the best shall survive. Right. That's right. The merit. In other words, the merit. So in sports, they don't say in basketball teams, well, how many black guys can we get on the team versus how many? They don't do that. They say, who's going to take us to the championship? Right.
That's right.
That's what they do. Right. So, so which was why it was so fucked up when Colin Kaepernick started that whole, kneeling thing. Yeah. I mean, think about it. He was on there not because he was black, because he was a good quarterback, even though he started to suck, but he didn't live up to the hype. But I mean, think about it. What does he say? I think there is in the wheelchair league there is, but not in the NBA. But you're right there. but yeah. But seriously, man. I mean, the left just wants everything rigged in their favor.
That's the only way they can win is if they rig it. Because everybody around here knows they're all crazy.
Vamp says they are diverse. They let men compete in women's sports. Yeah, exactly correct.
You are exactly right. You know what that is? Correct. You know what a man competing in a woman's sport is? It's a sissy man is what it is, because a man that can't beat another man, so he's got to drop down and feel good about himself because he can beat a bunch of women. It makes absolutely no sense to me. What a low self-esteem person man that is. What kind of man?
I'm telling you, man.
He needs to break down and beat women. Come on.
Well, it's because they sucked as men, but then they're rocking it like that guy from University of Pennsylvania. His name escapes me now. The swimmer.
Oh, and, Leah. Whatever.
Leah. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, he was like 465th, and he went to number 1. I mean, so there's your reason, right? So if he can, and you know what the funny thing was,
but you can't be a winner among men. So you're going to be a winner among women. So what did you actually win if you're competing against somebody who is?
What pissed me off about it though was that a lot of young women worked very hard to get scholarships, right, to colleges and whatnot, and win those awards so that they can get into college to do swimming. And here these assholes come along and take that away from them.
Well, what happened to Title IX?
Yeah, I know. Let me tell you something. Well, think about this, Leanne. The Democrats, who was their number one constituent that they really cared about? Women. It was the NOW organization, or as Rush called them, NAG, the National Association of Gals, right? Well, the NOW organization and Patricia Ireland and all those a-holes, right? They were always very pro women, and toxic masculinity has to be done. There will be less wars if there are women. And now they're shitting all over women. Think about that. They're shitting all over women. We don't even know what's a woman. We have a fucking Supreme Court justice who couldn't even say what a woman was, and she was a goddamn woman.
Well, first of all, she shouldn't even be a Supreme Court justice if she can't tell you what a woman is, because she can read a definition, for God's sake. She's supposed to have a degree. And
she's supposed to be intelligent, and I'll bet she's not intelligent. She had to stick with the communist. Well, I call it the woke supremacy. And if you guys can get that book, read that book. It's called The Woke Supremacy. Let me look it up.
We need to put them all back to sleep. We need to get them in a full Nelson and get them in a sleeper hold and put them all to sleep. or because liberals love free shit, Don't you agree with that? They want everything
Yeah.
for free. So
Yeah.
why don't we just give them a free cruise and take all the little dinghies off the boats and take them out
There you
about
go.
50 miles and sink the son of a bitch? Be
Guys,
done.
buy this. Buy this book if you can, man, and read it. It's only $4.99 right now. The Woke Supremacy. It's a guy. He's from Hollywood, actually. Evan Sayet. He's from Hollywood, and this describes the woke supremacy, which is a socialist mafia. It in other words, he points out in the book what the woke supremacy is, and he explains, like, for example, shit, names are terrible for me tonight. The Harry Potter woman who wrote Harry Potter. Damn, I can't remember her name.
I have the whole series of books. I can go back there and pull it and tell you the
No,
name.
anybody tell me who she is? Well, whatever. Well, you think about it, she was a good liberal in standing for years, right?
Mhm.
And Linda Hunter says, "Nice to see you, Leanne."
Hey, Linda, where are you?
Rawling, yeah, Rawling. Thank you. And so Rawling, she was a good liberal and whatnot, but then when she was inside the woke supremacy, okay? Yeah, J.K. Rowling.
Wait a minute, stop. Are you talking about Rawlings, Rawlings?
Whoever wrote Harry Potter.
Okay, if that's her, she also wrote a book under she went under Anne Rice, about the stories of kind of what Cinderella was. But if you read those books,
yeah,
it's not far from what went on down there at Epstein Island. In fact, it's probably a really good depiction of what they did.
Oh wow! Send me a link to that book later on.
It's called something about Sleeping Beauty. It's and it's in her by. Hold on a minute, I'll go get the book. I have it.
Oh, cool.
There's a series of them. Ooh, and they are extremely explicit. Hang on, I'll go get the book.
She also wrote a series of erotic books as well.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
That's what I'm talking about. In page 13 on that first book, man, you better hope you have somebody around. That's all I can say.
Yeah. But anyway, what she did, she was in the woke supremacy, and then she came out against the trans people because she just thought it wasn't fair that men would push women out, and they booted her from the woke supremacy. So what the author of the book points out is that you are nothing to the woke supremacy, but you are everything when you're in the woke supremacy. But they will boot your ass out quicker than lightning if you are not within the Borg. If you are not in the Borg-like woke supremacy, they will boot your ass out. But he gets into the socialism, the mix of socialism with social media, and how they created this woke supremacy. And it's fascinating because he talks about how every death cult, like you had Stalin, you had Hitler and the Nazis, right? Every one of those, they had the same thing going on. You had, like, for example, under Stalin, the Soviet Union, they had what they called the One, what this author calls the One. Now, what's the One? The One was the one person that you have to look at and you have to emulate if you're a citizen. Now, who was it for the Soviet Union? The worker, right? The worker was the one. Everything you had to emulate was about the worker. And you go, which worker? Shut up, bigot. It doesn't matter. The worker, right? So with the Nazis, what was it? It was the Aryan. He was the one. It was the Aryan, the pure blood German, right? Blonde hair, blue eyes, built like a brick shit house, air hose stuck up the ass, right? And so the same thing goes with the woke supremacy. It's the same exact thing. And for them, it was the tranny. The trans people were the one that you were supposed to emulate. And he got into this shit before it was actually shit. He started predicting stuff in the book that was going to happen, but he's got it down pat. It's a really fantastic book.
Well, I'm going to say something that's politically incorrect. Imagine that.
All right, don't say anything that's against the 1,000 bylines of rules of YouTube. Go.
Well, well, thank God we're on a live show, so they can't really get you too bad.
Well, they can. I would have to delete it.
This trans stuff. You want to talk about the trans stuff?
Well, we're not really supposed to talk about it, but you can go. No, you can say it. Just don't say anything. Just don't say anything like don't say anything like harmful to a trans, because you can get in trouble here. They would give me a strike, and
it's mental.
I mean, we're allowed to talk about it as long as it's
positive and saying it's okay.
Well, no. If we're using it for informational purposes, you're allowed to. But if you just go, these fucking trans, man, they suck. You can't. We can't do that.
Well, I have a friend of mine that is a psychologist.
Right.
And she says that it's mental illness. That's been studied for years, and they just changed the name.
Bobbity. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Look,
well, it is in the DSM-5, and I'm sure they'll take it out soon.
You don't wake up one day and say, "Oh, gee, I feel like a man. I'm a woman." There's no way on God's planet I could ever feel like a man, because I've never been a man. I don't know what it is. Nor can a man feel like he's a woman. And frankly, I'm fixing to get on my soapbox about this.
Here's my take on it, Leanne. Okay, you want to do that? Mazel tov. Okay, you do it. You want to have a mental illness that you want to deal with?
Yeah,
okay.
But you don't.
But why are we being forced to enable it?
Well, the thing about it is, though, you don't get to be a woman unless you get the woes that comes with being a woman, like a menstrual cycle and having a baby and going through menopause. You know what's funny?
I've seen so many TikToks of them where they say where they're like lying down or holding their stomach, and they're like, "What's wrong with you? I have my period." And the guy's like, "No, you're not. You're not. You can't have that. You're a guy." No, and it was funny as hell. But Leanne, think about this. If there's people that literally go on video, like I do my videos every day, and I do them on political subjects because I truly believe in what I'm saying. Okay. These people go, "Oh, here comes Jade. What's up, Jade?
How you doing, man?
All right, man. What's going on?
Just the usual."
Oh, show them. Just give them an eye view of your drum kit. Look at this.
Ooh.
It's a nice kit. Look at that.
Nice.
How many people get to make music by hitting things?
Not me.
Well, it's according to what you're hitting.
Or who?
Or who? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Rich, did you see where on that ship that was accidentally hit the pylon and to collapse?
We talked about it earlier. Go ahead.
The CDC having there were some containers on there marked by the CDC with hazardous materials. Did you see anything about that?
Yeah. There were tons and tons of fuel that went into the water, and there were tons and tons of hazardous materials that went into the water as well.
But what would the CDC be doing with? I mean, what kind of hazardous materials they have? Or what is it all? The shot?
Look, the CDC told us that the vax would work, and they told us that distancing and the mask would work. So I don't give any. We have Jade is actually a medical doctor, so you can talk to her about all that. She like.
Well, my question is, what was in the containers? Was it all the vaccine? Because that's hazardous material.
Yeah, well, I don't trust anything that they say, but what I did hear, you missed it earlier. I talked about Laura Logan, I love her.
Oh, she's awesome.
She is, and she went on War Room with Steve Bannon over the week, and she had said that she has a bunch of sources inside government. All right, I used to have two, and both of them flaked away now. But one of them was FBI. But I mean, he's still a friend, but he can't give me anything anymore. But what's called? So it turns out that she still has connections in DC, and they're telling her that. I mean, you can go to Rumble and see the war room of her there, but they're telling her that they're telling everybody it was an accident, but they know it was an attack.
Well, sure it was.
They know it. Yeah, well, of course it was. It was a cyber attack.
Well, first of all, they come on 15 minutes after the damn thing runs in, then the bridge clocks. It's not terrorism. Oh, really?
I know. Isn't that crazy?
You had 15 minutes to do an investigation, and you've come
Was
up
that
with
not crazy when they came right out and said that? Oh, it's
Yeah.
not terrorism.
Well-
that's like saying, well, we know that the Biden laptop is Russian disinformation, even though we didn't see what was on the laptop. We don't know a goddamn thing about it. It's Russian disinformation.
Well, it's like
so
a
many
pig
people
walking
believe it.
across your front yard, and you say, "Hey, there's a pig walking across the front yard," and so this is not a pig, that's a cow. What the hell's the difference? We know it was on purpose. There's absolutely no way that ship just happened to float in to one of the load-bearing pylons to knock the thing down.
Well, Vamps got it right. He said, "I'm surprised they didn't blame it on Trump." I am too.
Leanne, you know how you can tell a politician is lying?
His lips are moving.
You got it. You got it. You know it.
You know what? If you're not a crook when you get there, you are when you leave.
It's true. Hey, I want to bring something up. What do you guys think of Trump's pick for VP? I believe it's going to be J.D. Vance.
Well, if they hate Kari Lake more than they hate Donald Trump, he might need to pick her because they won't kill him because they won't want her.
Well, I think J.D. Vance is a great pick because, like, he already told Vivek, "No, it ain't you, but I want you in my cabinet." He did. He already told him that. But
him Secretary of Commerce.
Actually, what was he wants to put him on? Not Commerce. What the hell was it?
Mayorkas in place of Mayorkas, wasn't it?
Yeah, DHS. Yeah. I think it was DHS in place of Mayorkas. Yeah, Department of Homeland Security. He wants to put him there. That's because he did a lot of talking on the circuit about the problems with DHS right now. With DHS, because of 9/11, DHS now runs everything. Right, like everybody's under them.
Thank
White House press secretary.
Thank you, President Bush.
Yeah, really.
You know,
but I liked his economy all the way up until it died. But but that's another story. I mean, a lot of people think that the 2008 crash was because of Bush. No, it wasn't. It had nothing to do with George W. Bush.
No, I'm more worried about the Patriot Act. That was a lovely thing.
Oh yeah. Well, see, the Patriot Act was supposed to be against.
Have anything to do with George Bush? That's not what it had to do with.
What did?
It had to do with when Bill Clinton made us do the Community Reinvestment Act loans. I was a mortgage banker at that time, and we were forced to make loans to people that couldn't pay attention, much less a bill. And that's when they took those subprime mortgages and packaged them with prime mortgages and then sold them into the hedge funds. And when the subprime mortgages went belly up, the entire investment went belly up. So that's what caused the crash. You can thank Bill
what happened? The way it started was there's a woman by the name of Gail Sincata, and she was in Chicago, and she was the president. Well, she ran, I think it was called the National People's Way. It was a community organizing group, and this was in the late 60s, okay? And she ran the first redlining study. We lost Leanne. Oh, no. She ran the first, there she is. She ran the first redlining study. And the redlining, the way that it came out was they said that bankers would go to a city map and they would draw a red line around certain areas and tell their mortgage lenders, don't lend to these areas. And it was racist because all the areas were black parts of the city. Now, they did draw the red lines around and they did say, don't lend to these areas, anybody with this zip code. And in a lot of those areas, they were black, but it had nothing to do with race. What it had to do with was when someone comes in to fill out a mortgage application, okay? A lot of people don't know this, but when you sign up for a loan, a mortgage application, a credit card, the way you answer on the form is what determines if you're going to get it, because it's a point system. So if you've had a job for more than 5 years at the same place, you get a higher point than somebody that didn't, and so forth and so on. And so what happened was in these certain areas of cities, people were coming in to fill out mortgage applications and they failed miserably. They had horrible credit. They didn't have a job. I'll bring you back in, Leanne. Okay. Horrible credit. They didn't have a job. They didn't have any savings. You know, it was just they were never going to pass the mortgage application. So Gail Sincata does this study, and it says that it's racist. But the only metric that she used for the study was race. She didn't do what's their credit history. Do they have a job? Did they ever own a car? Do they have a light bill in their name? You know, they didn't look at any of that. It was just race. And so what happened was the Democrats at the time bought into that and said, oh, we can make a fortune with this, and we can get a lot of political capital with this. So what they did is, it was two guys. It was William Proxmire, who was a progressive back then. He was a progressive from West Virginia.
So
Democrat.
He's now, right?
What?
If he was a progressive back then, he would be considered conservative today.
Yeah, well, probably. But it was him, and it was Ted Arrett. Why couldn't the bitch hold her breath? Kennedy. All right. So Proxmire and Kennedy got together and wrote the Community Reinvestment Act. Okay. Among other things, what the Community Reinvestment Act, and I think it was Carter, that presidential Democratic prank known as President Jimmy Carter, he signed it. And what it did, among other things, was it told the banks that if a community organizing group came up to you and said that we want you to create a fund, and that fund you're going to put X amount of dollars in each month, and that's going to go towards helping Black people get a home. In other words, it would pay the points, it would pay what your down payment for the house and stuff like that. And if they said, screw you, we're not going to do that, who do you think you are? Then they had the right to shut down that business, the bank's business transactions with other banks. Like they literally had the power to do that.
I wrote many of those loans.
Right. So what happened was at the time Bill Clinton got into office in DC, he put it on steroids. He made the Community Reinvestment Act, he made it he nationalized it. And so the mortgage bankers eventually got together and complained. And his housing secretary at the time, which was Andrew Cuomo, right? Andrew Cuomo told them, suck it up and put them on the subprime. Okay. So here's the scam that the government came up with. All right. So if somebody came in and said from one of these red zone places and said, I want to get a house. And they went, okay, let's do the app. Well, they had to let them finish the app. In the beginning, the reason why they said red zone, because it cost money to take that application, because the person that's doing it has to get off other work and handle your application to do all that. So they were like, it's a waste of money if we know that people in that area are not going to be able to pass. So maybe it was wrong, maybe it was right to do it, but it wasn't racist. So anyway, so what they did was they said, okay, the guy comes in, he wants to get a loan, he doesn't fit it. So we go, okay, here's what we're going to do. You want to buy that $300,000 house, okay? But you don't have the money to do that. Well, you can afford $1,000 for 4 years, right? Every month. Yeah, I can afford that. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. You're going to do on the subprime, you're going to have $1,000 mortgage for 4 years. On the 5th year, a balloon's going to hit and it's going to go up to $5,000. And they go, but within 4 years, according to the housing bubble, the artificial housing bubble that we, the government, created, what's going to happen is your $300,000 home is going to be worth $410,000. So what you're going to do is you're going to pay that 4 years of $1,000 a month until that 4th year comes up. When the 4th year comes up, you sell your home for the amount, take the capital gain, buy your next house. And it worked wonderfully for 30 years. They did this, okay? Until what happened was in the 1980s, in the 1980s, people started to say in America, we're sick and tired of the cost of these houses. We're buying blue market value. We're not paying that kind of money anymore. And so it got up to the Bush years now, and the housing market was in a little bit of trouble. And so what happened was they started taking all those bad loans, because they were bad loans. They were toxic loans. And they started selling them off like they always do, right? And Fannie Mae was taking them, right? Fannie Mae was chartered.
But
Fannie Mae was chartered by Congress.
I'm telling you what they did, though. I know that they packaged them
in with bundles of
Derivatives and all
other
that.
mortgages that were prime mortgages. And when the
Right.
subprime mortgages went belly up, the whole investment went belly up.
Well, yeah,
But-
that's exactly correct. But what happened was they started repackaging them and trying to sell them off because Fannie Mae had bought too many. See, Fannie Mae was chartered by Congress in what, the 30s? I think it was Roosevelt. But what their whole job to do was, like, if a bank has $1 million, okay, let's just say for shits and giggles, this bank has $1 million to be able to loan out for mortgages. For every, I think it's 500,000 that they loan out, they get like 700,000 back in 30 years on the time of the mortgage. But if they give out all their loans and it's June, they still have several months for the year. They're not making any money, right? They don't have any more money that they put aside to be able to loan. So Fannie Mae comes along and buys all their mortgages at 90%. So you're getting 90 cents on the dollar, but you're getting the money right now. The banks go, why not? So they take that influx of cash. Fannie Mae takes over the mortgage and then sells those off a little bit unless they keep them themselves. And the bank has more money then to take care of their community and loan more money out for mortgages. And it worked.
Well, you
I
know,
don't like the finagling of it.
what would have made that program work? The Community Reinvestment Act loan. Because when I did those mortgages were 2% higher than a regular FHA, VA, or conventional loan. They were charging them more interest. It would have made more sense for those for those people. Why charge them 2% more? Why don't you give them 2% under prime where they can make the payment palatable for them?
Right.
That would have made that program work. They set that up for failure to begin with.
Here's what happened in 08, okay? By the time 08 came, all right, everybody said, we're sick of this. We're not buying it. The market was hurting, and it collapsed. The market collapsed. And then Lehman Brothers came in. They were the insurance. There was another one. They had to handle the insurance. They collapsed because they were paying it all out. No insurance company has all the money, just like no bank has all your money. So what happened was you had millions of Americans. Hey, good to see you, Classified Commander. What happened was you had millions upon millions of Americans who were in that pre-bubble period. They were paying $1,000, right? Now their fourth year hits, they put their house up. Nobody's buying at that price. Nobody wants it at that price. So now they can't sell their home, right? But they can't afford $5,000 a month either.
And they didn't probably make their payments on time, and they can't afford to
exactly. So what happened was they get evicted, right? The bank takes it over. Now I heard all these friggin'
Rich. Hang on, you missed one point there. They may get evicted, but it takes 2 years.
Right.
So,
but
so they stop paying their mortgage.
Right.
And
exactly right.
And
but here's
we had a family up behind us that did this, and they went around the neighborhood telling everybody that they didn't fit into the neighborhood. We didn't say that.
Right.
So all of a sudden, one day we're seeing like dumpsters in their yard. They had moved out. Not taking all of their stuff, but all of the copper pipes, all of the fixtures, all of the fans. It took them 2 years to get them out of there. They had just stopped paying their mortgage. It takes them 2 years to get you out.
Right. But see,
and then you just walk.
Oh yeah. What happened was I saw all these eggheads on TV, on all the CNBCs and all that, all the money shows, the politicians and all. There was one person that gave a solution that would have worked that no one else came up with. It was so goddamn simple. It was Donald Trump. He went, he used to go on Morning Schmo's show every week, and then he was on Fox and Friends the next day. Well, he went on there and he said, look, guys, he goes, the bank doesn't want your house. Renegotiate.
That's true. The bank does not want your house. They
don't want to own 5 million homes that they can't unload. Go to your bank. Tell them you'd like that. You know what happened. It wasn't your fault. The system collapsed and that you can't sell your house. Renegotiate. You get to keep your house. And he was right. About 60% of the people could have done that.
Yep.
Could have just
The
renegotiated with the bank.
The last thing the banks want to do is foreclose on you, because it costs them money to foreclose on you. It costs them money to file the paperwork. Then they have to sell the house and hold it on their books, and it just doesn't work.
Yep. What's up, Commander?
Oh, busy as hell, my man, as usual.
Yeah.
You know,
I figured that.
Story of my life these
days. Good to see you too.
Hi, Leanne. Oh, I love your accent, dear. You're so great. You got a great attitude too. I just love hearing from you.
Well,
I love when you and your husband were on a stream with Rich, and I just fell in love with you two. You guys are great.
This is the other one's Jade. She's the medical doctor that we know and love here.
Hey,
she's
Jade.
like my top commenter.
Oh, hi, Jade.
How you doing?
Good.
She's a drummer, as a matter of fact. She got her drum kit right behind her.
Oh, nice.
You know, there's one other thing, Rich, behind this that applies to a lot of things we're hearing these days. One factor that you need to consider in this, it's called magical thinking, and the left is guilty of it. And the worst offender that I can think of, what's his name? Bernie Sanders. And he'll come up there and he's talking about Medicare for all and all the other, well, where are you going to get the money?
Exactly.
And then all he does is start yelling at you.
Yeah. If the billionaires paid their fair share, that's all he
starts yelling at. And the last, I don't know, was it a year ago when somebody in the government was complaining about how much it costs and they were going to need this much and that much. And I figured that by their figures, if they took all the money from all the billionaires in this country, they would be able to run the government for like 8 months.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exactly
by the figures that they gave us. So it's like, okay, now you've got 6 or 8 months. Now what are you going to do? So,
well, how about we just get rid of the government?
And by the way, Vamps, where are you from? I'm in the Denver area. Vamps is a guitar player. I'm looking for a guitar player.
I was a guitar player until my arthritis said I can't play anymore.
Hey, Rich, I'm coming up to your neck of the woods in June.
Where you going to be? Philly?
Well, I'm going to be. Anna's moving to Cape May.
Okay, yeah, all right, that's not far.
Her husband's in he's in the Coast Guard, but he works on helicopters. So,
cool.
We'll be moving her up there, but we're going to have to make a detour because we were supposed to go across that bridge that collapsed. Just saying.
Oh, yeah.
So Vamps, if you ever come back to Pikes Peak, you can look me up. He's apparently used to live in.
Yeah, he said 15 years he lived in Colorado.
Yeah.
That's cool.
We got one guitarist. Looking for another one.
Oh, you have one? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
What type of music do you play?
Rock, baby. Classic
there you
rock.
Go.
Yeah.
Classic rock.
Is there any other kind?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm an old.
Where they actually wrote songs and they came up with original ideas instead of using a nursery rhyme. Just saying.
Yeah. I write songs with AI now, so I can't even talk.
I write politically incorrect songs to songs that are already here, like maybe the 12 Days of Christmas, but it's got a little bit different name, got a little different swag on it, but it's actually very good. And at Christmas Eve, I get drunk every year, and I sing it for everybody.
Leanne, send me the lyrics, and I will create a song for you through AI.
Okay. Well, I will send you the lyrics, but it's to the 12
days. Send me the lyrics, and I'll do it for you.
It's to the 12 Days of Christmas, but when we get off here, I'll sing it for you so you'll understand.
Suddenly, we were yeeted.
It's really great. It's really great.
Yeah.
Well, I am a songwriter. See, I sang the song last week about Fat Fanny. I rewrote that song.
That's great. Leanne has 3 daughters who are all getting married now. Leanne's going to go broke.
No, not Leanne's going to go broke. Leanne is broke. Let's revamp that little statement. Yeah.
Wait till the grandkids come around. You ain't seen broke.
I have 2 now. And the word no is not in my vocabulary. That's their parents' problem, not mine. If they want it, they get it. Doesn't matter. You want a chocolate cake at 1 o'clock in the morning? Let me go get you a slice.
Hey, you know what's the best?
Grandma. That's
the
awesome.
best thing about grandkids is you can spoil them and send them home.
That's exactly. Right. And you know what's even the best thing about them is before their mom and dad come and get them, you sugar them up real good. So when they get home, they're bouncing off.
You know what I used to do? When I had my son, when I was divorced and I had my son and he was still young and it was present time, I would always give him something that was very loud and had big batteries. Those were the criteria.
Well, my grandson is 2. He'll be 3 on his birthday. Guess what he's getting for Christmas?
Set of drums?
Absolutely.
Oh, get out. Cool.
Yep.
Cool.
Somehow I knew you were going to say that just the way you were talking.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to give him if it makes noise and it's got lots of little bitty pieces, it's bought.
Colin must be somewhere because I hit him up a couple hours ago and I hit him up like 10 minutes ago. He hasn't even seen it yet. There's no notification. He must be out doing something.
I don't know. I hadn't spoken with Colin since the last time he was on your show. I hadn't spoken.
Get out, really? Yeah. Well, we hit each other up with the jokes and all the the racist shit that goes funny that we're not charged with.
Yeah.
All the politically incorrect stuff.
Well,
Leanne, I'm not advising.
As soon as you can't, as soon as the liberals can't argue the facts, and that's as soon as they start talking, they can't argue.
Yeah.
They start calling names and then call you a racist. Well, there are more down here. I live in Mobile, Alabama, which is as far south as you can get, except for Florida. We do not have problems here. We don't have racial problems here.
I know. It's a known fact.
We don't have those problems here. Now, a lot of the reasons why we don't have a lot of problems because everybody's packing and they'll shoot you, and then somebody will bring a barbecue grill and somebody will bring some potato salad and baked beans and watch you bleed out. Not a problem.
I love that.
Yep. And for the squatters, that won't work in Alabama. Because they walk right in and shoot you right there where you stand.
Just fucking shoot, shovel, and shut up, right?
What are they going to say?
Hear what they just did in Florida about the squatters?
Oh yeah.
What'd they do?
Well, the governor just signed legislation that anti-squatting law. You can use physical force to remove squatters now.
Good.
Which I'm not surprised Florida is one of the first states to put this in, because what happens in Florida, those houses are, most of them, unoccupied for like 3-4 months a year.
Right.
And I guess you go into one of those houses, you have your cell phone bill delivered there once or twice, and it's yours.
Right. I know. I heard that. I heard a report on that the other day. They showed an illegal speaking in Spanish, and they had the subtitles, and he was looking into his phone.
He said this was going to be his new business. I don't know.
Yeah. He said, I just found out that you can go into a home that's unoccupied and they can't make you leave. Well, they can, but it takes like 60 or 90 days, depending on the jurisdiction.
Not down south. It doesn't. It takes about 5
No,
days.
they have their rifles down there, and that's all you need. Yeah.
Well, we had a newscast down here from the sheriff, and I think it was Escambia County, which is just right over the Alabama-Florida line. And he came out and said, shoot them, save the taxpayers some money. That's what the sheriff told it. That's what he said in the press conference. Go ahead and shoot them and just save the taxpayers some money and be done.
Yeah, the crux and the bios. One time I was in Florida, we took one of those Everglades tours, and those damn airboats, they're loud. Boy, if you ever been on a V8 engine without a muffler, like 2 feet behind you, unshielded, it's great. You gotta wear hearing protection. So
welcome to my world.
And they stop, and there's all the cypress trees, and you can't go through there except on these little paths, natural paths. And the guy's making jokes about, you just take. I'm not going to say it in case somebody break down my door, but you take what you want to get rid of and you stuff it under one of the cypress roots, and tomorrow it's gone.
Yeah, the crocs eat it.
Come here.
When I went down with my son. He was living in Daytona when he had my granddaughter, and I went down there to visit. And then he goes, come on, we got to go down this one road. And I went, oh, okay, fine. So it was twilight, right? So it was dusk, and the sun was going down and all. And he goes, so he takes me down this road where it's just the road, and on the side of both roads is swamp. It's like swamp and trees. So he goes, all right, let's get out. And I want to show you something. I went, all right, what? And so he goes, oh, just wait a minute. And I'm like, what's going on? The only light was the moon, and it was a full moon that night. So he goes, perfect, right? And I go, what's going on? All of a sudden, the Crocs come out of nowhere. And I go, whoa, what the heck? They can run fast. They can run. I go, what the hell is this? And he goes, oh, just hang out, Dad. Wait until it's dangerous. I'm like, screw you, get in the car. He goes, no. And he's trying to block me from getting in the car. I said, son, I'll throw your ass at one of them if you don't get the hell off my door. He's laughing. He's going around.
And I guess most of them are alligators, which aren't quite as vicious, but they do have a lot of crocodiles. That's what I'm told. And the burst speed is 35 miles an hour. You're not running away from them.
Yeah, I think the difference is the Crocs, their teeth when they close their mouth are outside, and the alligators are inside.
The knobs on the tip of their nose and
either way.
Alligators
either way.
More square than a crocodile. Alligators are more square.
Yeah, the Crocs are more pointed. Either way, I don't want either of them biting my ass.
I know. Bobbity said, sounds like a southern border solution. It does.
You know what? Down south, we've got lots of border solutions if they just let us do it.
Yeah,
you wouldn't have all these problems.
I'll bet. I'm willing to bet.
You know, just like, we had a lady come down and said, do y'all have problems down with Black Lives Matters and Antifa? No, we don't.
Yeah.
No.
There are no problems. There are only solutions.
Yeah. Try that in a small town. That's what Alabama is. You ever hear the song? That's what Alabama is.
Yep.
Well,
around here, we take care of our own. Yep.
Well, but they said that now, I guess per capita, I live in the second most dangerous city in the world. There's just no way that Mobile is as dangerous as Chicago, maybe per capita, but it's if you're in a bad area, right. Just if you're in good areas, you don't have any problem.
I think where I live now, I think the last murder was in like the 90s. I think it was like in the 90s in my township. Yeah.
Okay, I would like to go ahead. I want to make a public service announcement here.
There you go.
Okay, here's my public service announcement.
That's what we're all about here.
Okay, I'm going to say, and this is directed at our soccer player, Miss Megan Perino. What's her name? Megan Rapinoe. Rapinoe.
Yeah. Rapinoe, yeah.
With the purple hair.
Rapinoe, I think it is.
Whatever.
Justin Bieber?
Oh Lord, she need not ever come down to Alabama. Because if she ever comes within arm's reach of me, I swear I'm gonna throat punch her just as soon as I see her. Yeah.
Hopefully it's on Throat Punch Thursday.
That's right. It could be throat punch Tuesday. It could be whatever. It really doesn't matter. But I seriously would.
Yeah, I know you don't like her.
Oh my God! Did you see the thing that just came out where she admonished one of her teammates for talking about her Christian values? So you can't talk about your Christian values in front of her, but she can shove her lifestyle and what she thinks down your.
Well, that's how the left operates.
It's different when we do it.
Take a knee.
Yeah. Jade's right. Well, it's okay when we do it.
It's different.
Yeah,
it's different when we do it.
And I'm really a live and let live person. You want to do your thing, you do you, but don't expect me to do you.
Right.
And that's the point.
Want to do her anyway.
On the other hand, I'd like her to meet because she probably deserves a little smack of twixt the peepers.
Yeah.
Well, she has gone on the world stage and ran her pie hole and gave her opinion. And so because she put herself out there, she's out there now. And now you get what you got coming to you if you put yourself out there. It's just
she's very anti-America.
You get what you fucking deserve.
Yeah, she's very anti-American.
Well,
think
you
it
know
was
what she needs to do?
Elon
She's
Musk.
free to leave. She don't have to stay.
I think it was Elon Musk said that. Elon Musk, back when it was Twitter, and he said something to the effect that you step in the arena, baby, you're going to get it.
Yeah.
And because he had said something to someone and they were, crying those tears about how can you say that? And he said, you step in the arena, you better be ready for it.
Yeah.
You can't.
Well, now if you say anything, oh, well, you hurt my feelings. Oh, you hurt my feelings. Oh, whatever.
Well, facts don't care about your feelings.
Last I looked, we had the First Amendment for freedom of speech, but I really don't remember a right to not be offended.
Right. That's exactly correct.
I'm offended. I'm offended that they're offended. How about that?
I'm sorry. If I'm offended, I walk away. You say something I don't like, hey, I'll support your right to say it. I don't have to sit there and listen.
Exactly.
Well, my brother always said, the old, okay, Adam and Eve, but now Adam and Steve, but don't make me call a guy Susan. That's what he has a real problem, and I can understand it because I agree with him. Where in the trans movement, they were saying, okay, well, you have to call me by my pronouns. I don't have to call you by anything. And they wanted to make it. I hear up in Canada, they actually are pushing laws for that. Is that right, Commander?
Yeah, that's true.
No, it's beyond that. There is a law. You will act, and it's a pretty hefty. And I think it's a sentence. It's not just a slap on the wrist. It's not just like a $50 fine.
No, it's a prison sentence.
Yes.
For
wasn't it a 5-year? Wasn't it 5 years?
For not calling them there?
Hate speech.
I call everybody fuckface. That's why. That's your pronoun. Your pronoun is fuckface because it works for everybody.
It gets better.
I like the old. My adjectives are handsome and. That was Mike Walsh, I think it was, or Matt Walsh. He used to say that when that whole thing went out.
Rich, it gets better than that. You haven't heard Trudeau that fill in the adjectives here because what I have to say about him would burn a sailor's ears. Okay, but Trudeau, not only has he decided that you're going to go to jail for hate speech, he wants to extradite foreign nationals from their country to Canada to be sentenced in Canada for the hate speech that they said in their country.
There's no such thing as hate speech. There's only free speech or oppression.
Well, hey, listen, Commander, I agree with you. I'm using the words that they do.
Yeah.
I'm just using their words.
I don't see how he could legally do that. Snatch someone.
He can't. But he can try.
I know.
He can try. You
know what finally turned me? Because I paid attention to Canada through YouTube, watching Canadian videos and some TV shows that I liked, right? But when that whole trucker thing came, we lost Leanne. When that whole trucker thing came out, the convoy, and I heard Trudeau when he gave his little speech there before he ran off like a sissy. And he said, he referred to them as people with unacceptable views.
Yes.
He actually said that.
Yes. Can you believe he actually said that?
And he also said, do we tolerate these people?
Yeah. Do we have to live with these people? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
This guy's a commie.
He openly admires Xi Jinping.
Yeah.
Somebody asked him once about
what's up, Sensen?
Something about
he openly admires communist basic dictatorship is what he said.
Yeah.
But he's
somebody,
a fucking idiot. And there's nothing more dangerous than a fucking idiot that thinks he's a genius.
Yeah, I know.
You know?
Yeah, somebody asked him specifically who he admired, and he said Xi Jinping. He says, "Look at what you can get done."
Yeah. I remember that. And someone else said something similar, like, I really admire that. And then now the left is trying to say that about Trump, because Trump, was it Trump? I think Trump had it was something about Nazis, and it was a memorabilia thing, right? Yeah, Leanne's gone. I don't know what happened to her. I just asked her what happened. She was, oh, her husband called and told her to get ready to go out, eat dinner, so she had to switch over and talk to him. All right. See you, Leanne.
Take care, Leanne.
Yeah, she has to go out. Yeah, happy Easter, everybody.
Yeah.
You know what happened today? Get this. So I wake up, I do my normal routine, get the coffee, log in, and start writing code. So I send a few emails out and whatnot, and nobody is responding to me. I'm like, what the hell? So I just for shits and giggles, I go on to our company calendar and I look here, we're off today. I worked like half the morning and I'm on a holiday. So
yeah, these guys can do anything they want, who's going to stop them? It's like
roll tide, Leanne.
Yeah. See you, Leanne. It's like what the current regime is doing here. I mean, the Supreme Court does not have an enforcement power.
Right.
Okay, so you don't like what they say, they ignore it. They don't have any way to enforce it.
That's exactly true. And yeah, the founders never thought that there would be people that the American people would elect who would go outside of that belief system. But here we are. And it's like Joe Biden, he said, screw you to the Supreme Court on the student loan debt forgiveness. And I'll never forget when he first got into office. I won't say elected. When he first assumed office, low IQ Maxine Waters was asked a question about, how does he think he can get away with this? How does he think he's doing this? And she literally looked into the camera and said, well, what you going to do? They own all the guns now. And she smiled and walked away. They own the military and the police and all that, the policing. That should have been a real wake-up call for a lot of people that they were going to abuse the police powers. They say, in the UK, we now have laws where if any person takes offense about a comment, not even directed at them, then they go to prison for 7 years. Jesus Christ. So you know what you're going to have? You're going to have a community that doesn't talk to each other. I know. I saw this video, right? And it was in China, and it was people.
Sorry, guys. I gotta take off here. Good talking with you, Rich.
All right.
As always, Jade. Good to meet you. Take care.
Take it easy, man. I'll talk to you. So his family probably hit him up. But anyway, so I'm watching this video, and it starts off by showing this type of incident. And what it was people were standing there, and someone would just go up to them, and they'd fall down. And then the other person who did nothing, nobody touched them, they go, oh, and they'd fall down too. And everybody collapsed on the ground. And I'm like, what in the hell? What on Lucifer's Black Beach is going on here, right? And it was all over the country. And you're like, what the hell? Here, their legal system is so effed up with lawsuits that if somebody accidentally bumps into you and you hardly even notice it, if you fall down and the witnesses around, you can sue that person, and the witnesses will also get money if they're witnesses for it. And we're talking big bucks because the courts are so convoluted over there. So what happened is people started, when they did that, if somebody like didn't even touch them and the person fell down and all these people were like pointing to them, then the person that is still standing would go, and they fell down. And then they would tell all the witnesses, well, she hit me. You saw that, right? And they're like, yeah. It's so effed up. And so now the people in China and a lot of these cities, they don't trust anyone. They don't want to go outside for fear. Like, you go out on the town, hit a couple clubs, go out for dinner, hit a movie. They don't want to do it because anybody could walk up to you and pull a scam on you, and you could literally get sued. That's a crazy way to live.
Well, Rich, here's the thing. The only people that really have to worry about it is the people that have something.
Yeah.
Police officer was in my office the other day, and he told me we have just, I think it's like 40 or 50,000 Venezuelan migrants in Denver taken in. And this police officer, I haven't witnessed it, but I, take his word for it. He says, I guess the new game in town is they will stand in front of a parking spot, and as you try to go in, they will make you pay them off to get in there. What's worse is they will watch, especially a woman going to her car, and they will stand behind the car and not let you out.
Oh, wow.
Until you pay them.
I would run them over.
Well, and then you're the one in trouble. You see, you could get out and you could argue with them. You could hit them. They have nothing. They've got nothing, and they've got nothing to lose.
Means I got nothing to lose. Yeah.
Yeah. They got nothing, and they got nothing to lose. I could be 100% in the right. You know, I got a job. I got a home. I got a family. That's what they're coming over.
This is why I keep a Louisville Slugger in the trunk of my car. That usually, I don't use it, but if you pull that out, that usually makes the scam guy think there's probably another sucker right around the corner.
Yeah, you just have to make it easier for them to go after someone else. Right. Whatever you do, don't do that in Canada.
Yeah, I know.
Canada, anything that you could potentially use to defend yourself is illegal.
I know. Why are you not allowed to defend yourself?
You're not allowed to defend yourself.
Why?
Because somebody might get hurt.
Yeah, but what if you get hurt by not defending yourself?
Well, that doesn't matter.
I know. Is this not crazy?
They're just there to take your money. You shouldn't hurt them. They just want your money. You know, why should they want your property? You shouldn't hurt them for that. Just give them your property.
Yeah.
Give them I mean, did you hear the thing in Toronto now where the chief of police in Toronto has advised that you keep your keys to your car next to your door, because the thieves come in, they break into your house, and well, really all they want to steal your car. So instead of having to confront them, just leave your keys right there next to the door, and they'll take your keys and leave. They'll take the car and leave.
Is that not crazy?
Well, next thing I think I mentioned it to you at one point. Next thing they're going to tell you, just leave your doors unlocked.
Well, yeah, sure.
Leave your doors unlocked, and
well, if you use a club,
surprise, the number of break-ins goes down because they don't have to break in; they just open your door. So now they can report, 44 man, Mr. 44. In.
Do you feel lucky, punk? Do you?
We're pretty blue, unfortunately, in Colorado, but we still have castle doctrine.
Okay.
And we actually, the law that we have is that if you are in a defensive incident, not only criminally but civilly, you're protected, which is very important.
Yeah. So
I imagine they're going to try and get rid of that. They're trying to get rid of a lot of things across the country, but we're still under that right now.
I had a lot of cop friends in Philly, and they used to tell me, if you ever shoot someone and suppose he's on the front step, drag him in the house. Because they said if the guy was threatening you with a weapon and you shot first and you killed him, drag him in the house. Otherwise, you may go to prison.
Yeah, that's a bad idea, though.
Yeah, I know.
Never mess with evidence.
Yeah, I know.
I remember in the UK, now this is going back years ago, there was a farmer, he'd been broken into a number of times. I believe his name was Miller. Why do I remember that? Name is Miller. So he's there, and 3 or 4 punks come into the house. He has an old shotgun. He shoots one, wounds the other. Unalives the first one, and wounds the other one. And they all get arrested. The burglars get 5 or 6 or 7 years. He gets 10 or 12 years. And he's not repentant. He said, I was defending myself. So, he didn't get any time off. And when it came to parole hearings, one of the witnesses at his parole was the burglar that he wounded. They brought that guy in to be a witness at this guy's parole hearing.
Wow.
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're having that conversation with somebody, I always start off by saying, okay, wait, do you support an individual's right to defend themselves? I mean, that's the first question.
Right.
Because if you don't, Well, that's fine. That's you, but we have nothing else to talk about.
Right, exactly. We have nothing in common.
We have nothing else to talk about. If you do not feel that you could defend yourself, that's great. Don't put that on me. But that it's your thing. But we have nothing to talk about if you do not feel that way. And there's some people who don't. Some people would, feel very strongly. They would never hurt themselves. They'd rather give of themselves, and that's fine. That's fine. If you want to do that, I prefer to stay alive and not be hurt.
I know, but it's crazy now. The Dems, and then they have those Soros prosecutors that aren't prosecuting people for crime, but they're prosecuting the victims that defended themselves, like the McCluskeys down in Missouri. Remember them when they broke into the private? They broke into the gate of it was a privately gated community, and they broke through and went on their property, and they pulled their firearms and get the hell off. Well, it got to the point where I think it was the attorney general jumped in and dropped all the charges against them. And that woman, Kim, I forgot her, Kim Gardner, I think it was. Kim Gardner, the prosecutor, she went after them and nothing about any of the people that did breaking and entering. This is unbelievable what they were doing.
Well, they went after Kyle, and they didn't go after the hundreds of people that burned down Portland or Kenosha.
Oh yeah, none of it.
Yeah, Uncle Bobby, yeah, I agree with you. It was the worst case of suicide you ever saw. 4 bullets in the back of the back. Yeah, it's unreal. And George Soros, like not long ago, before his son took over, they asked him about it, and he said, well, he wants those kinds of prosecutors because the disparity in sentencing and whatnot. And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, what about the disparity of the crime rate? The disparity of the sentencing is because of the disparity of the crime rate. Let me say this too. There was a guy, do you know who Alan West is? Alan West I think is in Florida now, but he was a congressman, a black congressman. He was a lieutenant in the military, really good guy. And they targeted his ass. Okay. He was in, I think, only for one term. And the left targeted him so badly because, think about it, he was a black conservative Republican who was very smart and beat them at their own game. Right. And they hate that the worst.
Oh, they hate it the worst.
That's the worst.
Yeah. And that's why they hated the guy that I used to write for. I used to write for a black Christian conservative Trump supporter. But what's called? So it turns out that they hated him. But one time he put something up and he said, is this the most racist thing you ever read, or is it a truthful story? And the story was this. There was in New York City, there was a public defender. And he wrote this article. He did it anonymously, but the way Colonel Alan West. And he's no Cornel West. Cornel West is another story, Bob. I know. But anyway, so this public defender said that he had been doing it for about 15 years. And he said that everybody constantly complains that, there's disparity in sentencing, that black people go to prison far more than white people. And he literally gave the experience that he had of 15 years of dealing with, criminals, defendants, if you will, every single day. So he said, it was a fascinating read too. He said that when he has a white client that has to go to court, they call him Mr. Smith, right? He said that they usually come in, they'll be dressed nice, probably a suit, whatever. He said they're very respectful. They look very solemn because they're very upset that they did something wrong and they feel bad about it. They're talk about restitution. He said, and then when they go to court, he said they're very respectful. Like in many courts, you have to wait outside in the hallway until you're called in as a witness or as the person. Now, if you're there, you're on trial. But a lot of times when they have witnesses that are also in the trial, they can't have two at the same time. And that's how New York is. And so he said that when it's a white, and he said the same thing goes with Hispanics. He said they're very respectful. Mr. Smith, yes, sir. No, sir. Thank you, sir. All that. And he said, and when they're in the back waiting, he said, they just want to go home. They just want to get it over with. get the punishment and then go home and resume their lives. So he said, now his black clients, what happens is they call him by his first name. They don't call him Mr. anything, right? They'll call him by his first name. Completely disrespectful. When he's explaining things to him, they says they interrupt. He said he's had them where they were on the stand and he would ask them questions that he told them prior to, I'm going to ask this question, but you're going to think it's going to make you look bad, but we're going somewhere else. Do you understand? Oh, yeah, yeah. So when they do it, when he does it, they would yell at him in front of a jury and say, oh, you working for the man, you working for the white man government, aren't you? And all that, right? And you supposed to be my lawyer and all that. And he said that when they show up and they sit in the back waiting, he goes, they all know each other. He goes, they're all coming in for different trials. They all know each other. And they start laughing at each other. Yo, what the hell are you here for? Oh, I robbed the liquor store. Oh, you dumbass. I told you don't do that. And stuff like that. And he goes, it's very disrespectful. And he said, and one of the things that he noticed was the black guys come in with their mothers. And he said, and a lot of times the white and Hispanic come in with their mothers and or fathers or both. And he goes, and they're all very respectful. And he goes, but the black mothers, he said, they go on a wailing tour and crying and like it's something happening to them, right? Like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened to me, my baby, and it's all like that. And so he said, I would go and try to make a deal with the DA and I would come back and I'd present it. So instead of 10 years, he's going to get 6, probably be out in 4 with good behavior. And the mothers are the one, don't you take that deal. Don't you listen to him. He's trying to send you away for 4 years. And he'd say, ma'am, he's my client, not you. And then the client would be like, don't you talk to my mother that. And he's like, Jesus Christ, I don't want to take these people anymore as a client, right? So he said that usually he learned that if he extends it, right? Because they do that a lot. Like he extends the hearing. And so you got to come back like in a month, right? And then the mother will come back again with him. He goes, by the 3rd extension, no more mother. And then he can talk to the client. He goes, it's the most frustrating thing. And they all talk about it. The public defenders there, right? That's what they have to do. So he said, when you're in there, he said he goes, when you get the witness on the stand, he said, the good thing about it is they behave that way. All the witnesses for in favor of the defendant also behave like animals when they're on the witness stand. And he goes, so he said, the jury sees that. He goes, but then the witnesses for the prosecution behave the exact same way. So it kind of counters it out. He goes, so you're sitting there on a jury, doesn't matter what your race, gender, whatever, your sexuality, doesn't matter. You're watching people who are treating the proceeding like it's a joke. And here, you had to take time out of your week to sit down here and watch this idiot's trial. When they say, well, we got you dead to rights, you're on the video camera, we saw you do, whatever. And they're still arguing that it's a racist conspiracy. He goes, you kind of get the idea why they get sentenced, they get convicted while some other people do, but on lower crimes, because they're like, you know what, the guy's repentant. He's sorry he did it. He wants to make retribution back, or he wants to make amends and pay them, compensation.
Restitution.
That's the word. Thank you. My brain's not working right tonight. He wants to pay restitution and he said, now he goes right there. There's the reason why in a lot of these cases, like black people go to prison or get convicted more than white people. And it has nothing to do with, I have a prejudice against black people, because many people in the jury are black. Many of them are. And if you're in a black city, right, an all black city or mostly black city, your jury pool's coming out. That's your peers. And that's who you got in the jury. And I'm reading this thing and I'm like, holy crap, thank God I didn't write this thing, because I'd lose my job, right? Talking that way. But Alan West had a problem with it. He was like, so because he talked about it on one of the shows he was on, he was like, so if this guy was for real, he goes, then we have a real problem in communities, the differences. He goes, but if he was just writing this because he had an axe to grind, he goes, it's the most racist thing I ever read in my life. But I thought it was very interesting. And you know what? It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. So they said disparity in sentencing Well, actually, it's like the old one I said when Gail Sincata did the redlining study. The only criteria she did was the race, right? Well, you could do the same thing in this disparity thing. You could throw out all the situations where they pissed off the jury, right? Or they gave a really bad impression to the jury, and the jury found him guilty because they just didn't like the guy and they believed that he could have done the crime, right? But no, they do these studies on the disparity of sentencing and convictions, and they only look at race. That's the only thing, the criteria that they use.
Well, they cherry pick the data. Of course, it's obviously.
I mean that's. But you know what? I mean, if somebody would just tell them, guys, when you're before the jury, those 12 people, your life is in their hands. Behave. Just behave. And he said he would tell them, look, come in a suit and tie, be clean. Don't wear sneakers. He would tell all his clients how to present themselves. And he would say, look, don't get emotional in front of the jury. They're watching you. He said, I went through all the particulars and everything I'm supposed to tell my clients. He goes, but every single time at one point during the trial, they lost it.
You know who pulled that off? I don't know if you remember Dee Snider. Dee Snider.
Twisted Sister?
Dee Snider. Twisted Sister front.
Yeah.
He pulled that off. Remember back in the, what do they call them? The pornography hearings that they had with Al Gore and Chipper and so they got Glenn Campbell there, and he's in a three-piece suit, and they've got a couple other guys, Dee Snider, and of course these guys, they looked around for buffoons that they would be able to browbeat. Well, turns out Dee Snider's a pretty sharp guy.
Yeah, he's very smart.
And so, but he shows up looking like he's on stage. He shows up with the hair all done and the makeup and, with the vest and he sits, he walks in like he owns the place, and he sits down and he starts talking, and he teaches him a thing or two about the language. And he ended up saying that Tipper Gore had a dirty mind, for one. And flat out, if you ever listen to some of those Senate hearings, it's great. He walked him around like a puppy on a leash. And basically he said, well, yeah, that piece of evidence where you've got this T-shirt that shows this and this, well, that's not our T-shirt. We didn't do that, and it just doesn't exist. And somebody did that. It wasn't me. And then there was this other one. You combined two pictures to make it look like this. And he went through, I don't know how long he spoke, but he taught them a thing or two.
Good.
And like I said, I thought the greatest was when he was answering some questions. So this came spontaneously, and he basically said something to the effect, if that's what Mrs. Gore saw in that she must have a dirty mind, something to that.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
He was also known to it when his band played in clubs. He was also known that if somebody shouted something at the band that was negative of the band, he would jump down off stage and beat the living shit out. He was known to do that. I can
believe that.
Yeah, he was known to do that. Yeah.
If I remember correctly, he was like 16 when he joined, and these guys were all older, and he had like something to prove, and he was like lost at first, but then he just said, okay, I guess I've got to be twice as good as everybody else to get half the credit.
Yeah.
And he just put himself into it.
Alice Cooper was also a very intelligent guy.
Oh, he is. He's also a professional grade golfer.
Is he? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, when he went into recovery, he started by golfing twice a day, every day, like for a year.
Wow.
And he says he just traded one addiction for another. One of the addictions is a little more healthy than the other, but he's pretty funny. He's like mid-70s now, and he says, I don't think I've made my best album yet. He says, if you think you've already made your best album, you should quit.
Yeah.
And he's still making, Yeah, I agree. Cooper is a genius. I love.
I always thought he was.
I love some of his stuff. I play a couple of his tunes. Yeah, he's actually a very interesting guy. And, you know, he and his wife been married for like 45 years plus.
Really?
Yeah.
About that.
Yeah, and
long time.
I mean, you know, in his spare time, I don't know if he does it anymore, but he was like a little league coach. I mean, he was a dad.
Really?
You know, he coached little league, and he said he'd go in there. You have his hair in a ponytail. And the kids didn't know from Ellis Cooper. He was Coach Coop. He was Coach Coop.
Wow.
But the interesting thing about him, his thing was alcohol. I'm sure he's had parties, but his thing was alcohol. And he was never drunk.
No.
He was never drunk. But he would leave a beer or two on his nightstand, and in the morning he'd wake up, he'd have a beer or two before he got out of bed.
Oh,
and then he would keep drinking all day. He was never drunk, but he always had a little buzz.
Huh.
Never drunk. But then he went to his doctor one day. His doctor did the doctorly thing, you know, put the pen down on the desk, take your glasses off, lean forward, and basically said, stop drinking or you're going to die.
Yeah.
And that was it. And his liver was pretty much toast.
Mm.
And so he said, oh, I guess I better quit drinking. And yeah, he tells the story. I've heard him tell this. I've seen videos where he told the story. And I guess he just stopped drinking. And, you know, something like 2 weeks into it, he said, well, I'm in the music industry. I better get used to this. He went to a bar, drank soda water. And he said he was waiting for something to hit him. He said he looked around, nothing. He just quit. And it was like, and he never looked back.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's interesting. And if you really listen to his music, I find a lot of subtleties in his music. I do. I like Cooper.
Yeah, I like him too. Sense him. Yeah, we talked about that earlier.
What's your favorite album?
Oh, I couldn't tell you right now. I haven't listened to music in like 10 years. Seriously. Yeah, I haven't listened to music.
My favorite.
What was the one song I loved about him? Hold on.
I think it's the Killer album. You grew up with that one in high school?
Yeah.
Killer.
Let me see. What was it? There was one. Yeah, I've been out of it for so long. School's Out was great. Yeah, School's Out was great. Poison, I'm 18. Yeah, all those. You and Me. The other one, now, Only Women Bleed. You familiar with that?
I am, very much.
And there was a show. What the hell was it called? It was about, I can't even remember her name. It was about a woman who had, she was divorced. She had 3 daughters. She was raising them. Her mother was from the UK, but she lived with them out in Southern California. And the woman was an actress. I can't remember the name of it, but at the end of one of the episodes, they played that song, and I had never heard it before. And a lot of people got the wrong meaning of the song. And I think Cooper praised the episode because he said, yeah, you got it right, about the song. And that's when I got back into looking at him again. That was like, oh God, that was a long time ago. But yeah, Only Women Bleed. It's like Welcome to My Nightmare.
Yeah, I like the comment there. Yeah, the IRS.
Yeah. We had talked about that earlier. I had said that when Obama was in, he was buying up ammunition like there was no tomorrow, and it was a stupid ploy to either raise the price of ammo so that normal people couldn't, regular blue collar people couldn't afford ammo, or he thought he would take it all off the market, which he did for a little bit of a time. It was hard to buy ammo. You couldn't even go into Walmart and buy ammo.
But answer me this question: Why do accountants need tactical training?
Right. Well, I had said earlier, when enough people complained to him, when enough people had complained, he answered. He responded, and he said in a presser, he said that all these departments, federal departments, have SWAT teams. And so they need, and I was like, wait a minute, why does the Bureau of Land Management have a goddamn SWAT team? What the hell's that all about? And he said, well, they need to be able to practice shooting, number one, and they need to, like, every so many years they lower their ammo to the level where they got to buy it again. And then we just figured we would buy it all. And I'm like, I don't buy it. But as far as the IRS, yeah, the Democrats lied again and said, oh, there wasn't 87,000 IRS agents that we were going to. Yeah, they were. And then they came out and said, well, a lot of them were just for processing. No, a lot of them were for enforcement. They wanted them for enforcement.
And have you ever seen any of the videos that got out there of some of these training sessions for these IRS officers?
What did they say?
My God. Have you seen them?
No.
Three Stooges. I mean,
what?
These they have a bunch of people, these accountants, and they're like entering a room with weapons drawn.
Right.
And you cannot believe how bad they look. I mean, they already look bad if they don't move because they're accountants. They're not soldiers.
Right.
They don't move well. They don't look like they can move well. And they go in, and there's a scene in one of the Monty Python skits where this group of cops raids, and it's like a mannequin factory. I don't know if you remember that one. They raid this mannequin factory, and there's nobody in there, just the mannequins.
Yeah.
And the short story is, at the end of it, they were very proud of themselves because only 3 of their officers were wounded.
Yeah. Well, the people they hire for their SWAT teams are not accountants.
Yeah.
And I don't get why. Like, I can understand why IRS might, if they have to go out for enforcement, they got to arrest somebody. Well, wouldn't they get a Secret Service guy to do that? Because the Treasury used to be, the Secret Service used to be under Treasury. Now it's all under DHS. But
yeah,
they would
listen. You get enforcement officers. You know, it's like, why does every police force need a SWAT team?
I know.
Why does every police force need a SWAT team? Every little police force is not going to be as good at it as if you have it centralized.
Yeah.
You know, you do something like you've got Delta Force. You know what Delta Force, you know what their specialty is? Hostage rescue.
Right. That's what they do.
That's what they do. So I have an incident. I call that kind of a unit. Why am I relying on the local guys that kind of think they sort of can do SWAT training or SWAT duties? You know?
Yeah, I'm not too keen on feds moving into local areas without being invited in.
Well, no,
they're not allowed to.
They would have to be invited. Like,
yeah, but a lot of them don't.
Like the governor would have to call and say, "We've got
but,
this incident."
What's funny is, remember the David Koresh thing?
Mm-hmm.
Remember that? Okay, so David Koresh, the government made him look like he was this crazy person, right? And that he was running a cult, and that he wouldn't let the women leave and all that. It was all a bunch of horse shit. He had all these guns. Yeah, because he was a gun dealer. And that's what he was an FFL, and he was a gun dealer. He sold guns. And the sheriff of Waco literally testified and said, look, I never had a problem with the guy. He was a nice guy. He goes, sometimes I would get a bill of sale, the laden bill of sale document, and I would say, oh, well, David never brought me his copy. So I'd call him, and he'd go, oh, yeah, sure, Sheriff, I'll be right there. Sorry about that. And he said he'd come right over. We'd have coffee together, hang out for a while. He'd talk. He goes, there was nothing crazy about the man. He goes, and here's the exciting part of the end of this story. Okay, so you have to wonder, like, so then what the hell was that whole incident about? And at the time after that, at the time, like the fire and all that, American Spectator came out with an article called His Cheating Heart. And it was about Bill Clinton, okay? And how he was a womanizer as the governor of Arkansas for all those years.
This is my shocked face.
Your what?
This is my shocked face.
Yeah. Color me shocked, right? So what the story was about, the article, was fascinating. It said that when he was running for president and it looked like the DNC was going to approve of him, he got the nod, right? And he was going to get the nomination. that they knew that all the reporters would descend upon Arkansas and ask all the questions, do the vetting, all that crap. So he told everybody that worked for him, heading up the departments and all that, if you keep your mouth shut about the women, my women problem, right? I'll bring you up into DC, which is, better pension, better pay, more prestige, right? So I'll bring you up. And so everybody did. They kept their mouth shut, right? Well, when Clinton was Arkansas governor, his protection force wasn't Secret Service. It was state troopers. Okay. Well, the state troopers eventually turned into his pimps. And so they would go out and find the women. They would find the women and bring them back to either hotels or somewhere in the mansion where Hillary wasn't. And that's what they did. And here, all these people got called up, but there were 3 state troopers on his patrol, his protection detail that did not. And they were getting angry. And so the article mentioned that. And they said, we kept our mouths shut. We were loyal. We did what he told us to do. And he forgot about us. Right. So next thing you know, suddenly, like within a month or so after that article came out, or I'm sorry, it was before the David Koresh thing. So after the article comes out, the David Koresh thing happens. And I remember watching this. It was on ABC News when they were showing the fire and the police going in. Well, there was one scene, you might have seen it, right? Because they showed it 100 times, but the stupid idiots in the press never figured out. I was a kid at the time, and I looked and I went, holy crap, what did he just do? Here you saw 4 ATF guys, and 3 of them just went through a window on the 2nd floor. They were on the roof, and they burst the window open, and they went through the window. And no sooner was the 3rd guy in there that the guy outside pulled a grenade and threw it in the window and started shooting. He shot and killed the officers. Okay. Those 3 officers were just suddenly hired by the ATF. Those 3 officers, those 3 ATF agents got the luck of being put on the detail for the Koresh scene. Those 3 officers, because they don't say, all right, just go in wherever you want. No, they set up, you go in this window, you go in the north end, you go through the back door, you go through here. Those 3 officers, those 3 guys got that detail to go through that window, and they were the 3 state troopers that were about to rat out Bill Clinton. And that's what they talked about in the article. They were the 3 guys that we all watched that last guy throw a grenade and shoot through the windows. And no one in the press ever mentioned it except for the American Spectator. Isn't that crazy?
It's totally crazy. Here's another question.
And it happened.
Here's a question for what do you think Hillary had on Bill or over Bill?
A lot.
She must have had something big.
Well, they were a marriage of convenience. Now, I listened to Michael. What the hell was his name? He was the guy that was the movie critic. Michael. He was the original movie critic on PBS. Hold on. Michael. What the hell was his name?
Definitely a network that I don't watch.
Movie critic. Michael. Wait a minute. Original.
Let's see if one of the viewers does it.
Huh? It was Michael. I can't remember his name. Damn it. I'm terrible with names today. Anyway, he went on to become a talk show host. And what's it called? He said that he went to law school with Hillary and Bill. And he said that they were in the commissary a lot, hanging out together. He was like friends with them, right? And not realizing who they would become years later. And he said that they literally could not keep their hands off each other, that they were very hot for each other. And he said, so he knew that when they got married, it was because they had a strong relationship and all that. But then Bill had a strong relationship with many other women after they got married. And so, it became a marriage of convenience because
you have to wonder with the way she has
Michael Medved. That's his name. Michael Medved. Sorry.
You have to wonder with the way she's treated him. over the years. Okay, she was from, where was she from?
Liquid.
Where?
No, I was saying hi to Liquid, Unlimited.
Oh,
Liquid.
okay.
Yeah.
I forget where she's from. Why can't I remember? Hillary Rodham.
Who? Hillary?
Yeah, where's she from?
She's from Chicago. She's from Illinois, a Chicago suburb.
Yeah. So she graduates law school. She had an opportunity at a Wall Street job.
Yeah.
Instead, she goes to Arkansas. Okay. Now, I imagine politics is a lot like the service. I can tell you from my personal experience, when you are a junior lieutenant, you're already being looked at, and this one's going to be the general. This is, junior lieutenants, they get screened there and you get picked. And especially if you're the son of a general, but that's the kind of thing they look at. I imagine politics, a lot of it works the same way. So I always wondered why she uprooted from Chicago and New York, went to Arkansas. And then she's with him, but how she has treated him. And the best example that I can think of is how she ran her campaign for president.
Right.
Okay. She's running for president. What better advisor could somebody running for president have besides somebody who has done it successfully twice?
Twice, right.
And she doesn't listen to him.
Right.
In fact, he said something once, my memory is going, he said something, and I forget exactly what it was. She turned around and made him go back out the next day or two and apologize for what he said.
Yeah, it was I did not have sexual relations
with
that woman.
That was
Miss
different.
Lewinsky. She told him to do that, by the way.
She told him to do that because, well, you know why? Because I'm the important one here. I'm going to be running for president. You have to get rid of this. And, if everybody just would have let it go, it would have you've heard of the Streisand effect. That's what kicked in.
What happened was they were this close about to go with the WAPO, New York Times, Boston Globe, with all these outlets. They were about to go out and say Monica Lewinsky had psychological problems and that she had glommed on to the president and that he really didn't want much to do with her until she told him that she had a dress with presidential DNA on it. Then they went, and that's when they sent Jordan out. I forget his last name, but they sent the guy Jordan out and offered her a job with a corporation that he had friends with, and that's how she got out of that. But you think about this though, Jade. Hillary Clinton, she had the reputation of being a very strong feminist. She didn't need she was a feminist, right? But what did she do in her life? She met Bill Clinton. She thought this guy's got a lot going on. He's going to go places. So I'm going to ride his fucking coattails all the way up. And she did. She rode his coattails.
Yes.
Right. Does anybody think she could have carpet bagged into New York City? Right. Never lived there in her life, but she goes in there, buys the house, and then runs, for the Senate without Bill being her husband. Really?
And that's exactly what I'm getting at. What did she have on him that she was able to do that and he let her do that?
I don't know. There's a lot of talk about the 51 list and all that.
Because they were in law school together, right? I think they were in law school together.
Yeah, they were. Yeah. I just told you Michael Medved went to school with them.
What does she have some sort of evidence of
probably him with a compromising picture with a donkey or something? I don't know, a German Shepherd maybe.
Yeah, or
I don't know.
Or non-consensual, if you know what I mean, the big R word,
Yeah. Well, the big R word, she was do you know that Hillary was a Republican her whole life until she met Bill? Her family was Republican. She was part of the Young Republicans. She was a member. She was a Republican girl, and she was political when she was young, teenager and all that. And then she met Bill, and everything turned.
Yeah.
The Bonnie and Clyde of crime.
She does whatever it takes to get her way. That's her thing.
Oh, yeah.
But But yeah, when Bill said something, you know, the whole Monica Lewinsky, yeah, that was all her. That was all her. She made a fuss. And, you know, if nobody would have said anything, you know,
it might have blown over.
It would have. No, look, back in the day, Johnson, you know, if this would have happened to Johnson, he would have spoken to, what's his name? The guy who was subpoenaing people. Anyway, he would have said, why are you calling her to stand? She's just the girl that sucks my.
Yeah.
You know, that's all he would have said. And it would have been over. Away. Except we made a.
You got to understand something, too. The Clintons had this thing where it was all symbolism over substance. I remember Dan Bongino one time said that he was the Secret Service. He was on presidential detail for Clinton, right? And he said that he didn't like his politics, but when you were in a room with Clinton, he was very charming, right? So he said the one time when they were first elected, they were traveling to New York. And he said, and I forget where he said one of the boroughs. They weren't in Manhattan, but they were somewhere else where they had to go to something. So he said that they had New York cops every cross street, you know, because the cars were going to come down that way, right? And so Hillary came out and said, get rid of those cops. And Bongino said to her, Mrs. Clinton, those cops are there to protect you and your husband. She goes, I don't want the projection of us having paramilitary people protecting us. Well, yeah, and he went, okay, fine, like that. And he said, I remember it was a crazy thing. He goes, so here I am. He goes, I used to be a New York cop. And he goes, so here I am, a Secret Service agent in the suit and tie, and I got to go down to these police officers and say, hey, guys, I'm really sorry, but, you know, the president's wife does not want you guys standing here, so I'm going to have to ask you to leave. And they're like, we can't do that. No, don't worry about it. We'll take care of you, duty officer, all that shit, right? And so he said they were all about that. That's what they were like. There was one time, another incident where they were having an argument inside the Oval Office, she and Bill, and she threw an ashtray at him. She literally threw because he said something publicly and didn't defend her on something. So they got in this argument. She threw an ashtray, and they heard the ashtray smash. And Secret Service burst through the door, the one guy that was outside the door, and he went in and he stood there, and she turned to him and goes, what the F do you think you're going to do? Right? And it was like 2 weeks later, Bill and she had to walk down there. It was all bullshit with them. Like everything was set up. It was all like smoke and mirrors, right? So they had to walk down the street, and I remember Rush Limbaugh talked about it. He did it as a joke. He goes, okay, here's a trivia question. Who is the first lady, the first one who ever shouted, get the F back to her Secret Service detail? Because that was Hillary. She was screaming at them, get the fuck out of here. She didn't want Secret Service behind her for the same reason she didn't want those NYPD cops, right? And so the Secret Service, the head of the Secret Service had to go to Bill and say, look, you're the president and we protect you. He goes, but your wife is the first lady and we have to protect her. Oh, no, what's the problem, right? Well, when she cursed him out, you know, saying, get the F back, you didn't say anything. And so he had to tell Hillary. I think that's how he got a bump on his head because she hit him with something. You know, and there was a real concern that she was going to hurt the president, you know, and I remember there was one last story was, you know who Dick Morris is, right? Dick Morris is the guy who he was a political consultant and he's a Republican, but to get reelected, Bill had a serious problem because of all the illegality that his administration was involved in, and people were starting to catch on. And then you had Fox News that came along and all that bullshit, right? So to get reelected, they hired Dick Morris. And years later, people asked him, why did you work for the Clintons? Because he's the guy that got them reelected. And he said, they made me an offer of money that I just couldn't refuse, right? So, and he was forgiven for it.
No,
but
you gotta say it right.
Yeah.
Like Vito Corleone.
Yeah. But what happened was he said that what he did was he came up with the idea of triangulation. Okay. Triangulation was, if you remember, it was at the time when the Republicans took over the Congress for the first time in 40 years in 1994. So they had the House and the Senate, and the Democrats were calling them Nazis and, oh, you're a Nazi and all that bullshit. Well, it turns out that the country was turning against Bill, and the Democrats were like, what was happening was the Republicans they were cutting spending big time. They really were, right? They were cutting spending, and the Democrats were crying and bitching, like putting up, welfare kid. This kid's not going to eat because of these Republicans and all that bullshit. They really did that shit, right? And so what happened was the war was between them, and the Republicans would finally come out with a bill that the Democrats agreed to, and the bill wasn't within billions. It was within a small number of millions from what Clinton wanted. Now, any other president would have went, okay, we'll sign that. It's good enough. I'll take what I can get. It's close enough, right? Bill didn't. He was, those Republicans, I just can't sign that because it's just, Shazam! It's just too bad. It's too far off. And here it was done intentionally because Dick Morris told him use triangulation. And the triangulation was this. Well, those Democrats over there, I know they're my party. I love them dearly, but they're a bunch of fucking nuts. And the Republicans, these guys are just too mean. They're nuts on the other end of the scale. I'm the only one that you can reelect to keep this place going. So the triangulation was they're bad, elect me, I'll keep them in line. And it worked. That's how he got reelected. And that was Dick Morris. So Dick Morris, his final story I ever heard from him about this. Hey, what's up, Chill? How you doing, brother? So Dick Morris said that one time he got into an argument. It was just him and Clinton in the Oval Office. And they'd gotten into a really heated argument over something like that Morris thought he should do. So he said, so I stormed off. And he goes, and I'm storming across the Oval Office, and the president tackles me to the ground. He goes, the president of the United States, the leader of the free world, tackled me to the ground. He goes, and he gets up off of me, and he goes, and I roll over, and my eyes are like, oh my God, what are you doing? And he goes, and Bill put his hand out and lifted me up, gave me a hug, and proceeded to apologize profusely. I am so sorry. I shouldn't. I'm real. Oh my God, forgive me. And he says he was very sorry, and you could tell it was real. He said, now Hillary, on the other hand, he goes, Hillary holds grudges. He goes, Hillary will hold a grudge for decades, and she will get even at some point. And he said that he had to interview her because he did such a good job getting them, so he had to interview her because he had to come up with a plan. This is when it was the end of his term, second term, and she was running for Senate. So he had to come up with a way to tell her how to run her campaign. So he had to have interviews with her. Like he was writing a book or something, right? So he had to have interviews with her. And you know how they always said, George W. Bush said that God told him to do this, to sign that. He never once said that. He never said that, okay? But I don't like George W., but he never said that. Dick Morris said that Hillary told him in confidence that she thought God put her on this earth so that someday she could do something huge to help people in need. That God specifically spoke to her and gave her that mission. Now, okay, I don't have a problem with that. You could think that. You're Christian. You could think something like that. But why did they always go after George W. Bush as if he would say it? George W. Bush was a religious man before, he started turning on the American people and, Patriot Act, all that shit. But yet Hillary literally did think that God told her what to do to get through her career. And that's why she wanted to run for the Senate.
Well, she ran for the Senate. She ran for president. I am just only very, very glad that
she lost.
She ignored who should have been her best and most important advisor, the man who had done it successfully twice.
You know why they did that? Do you know why they eliminated Bill from her campaign?
Well, she told them to.
Well, but no, it was her people that told her advisors. You know why? Because he was a serial sexual predator. And she was out there saying, vote for me because I have a vagina. She was out there saying, don't you want a woman in the White House? Isn't it time? Vote for me because I'm a woman. That's what she was doing. So she was playing the feminist card. She was a woman. You're going to vote for her because she's a woman. but she's married to a serial sexual predator. They wanted Bill out of the scene because of that. They did not want him in there because they didn't want the Rush Limbaughs and the Fox Newses to be able to come out and go, wait a minute, she's talking about vote for her because she's a woman, all women's rights, all this. Yet he ran around on her their entire relationship, and she stayed with him. Why? Because she's riding his coattails. They didn't want any of that. So that's why they put him on the down low. And the only time, as a matter of fact, that they had him there was when when she was running against Barack Obama the first time, and I remember Bill Clinton was there then, and he was in the limelight, and he said that the Obama people played the race card on him. And I think it was after that's when they told him, get out of the scene.
Yeah, I guess I don't know that much about it. I always thought it was her because
a lot of it was her.
Yeah, I always thought it was her. And you see, the thing is that Hillary thinks that any idea that pops into her head is absolutely gold. And whatever she says is pearls, and she's got this really inflated idea of herself.
Oh yeah, and she's an evil
that's why she gets very frustrated and yells and throws things when other people don't see her the same way as she does, and that leads to the whole basket of deplorables type of comments.
Yes, absolutely.
And when somebody tells her that you shouldn't say that, well, it's not her that's wrong, it's you that's wrong, and you get kicked off her campaign.
Yep.
So, again, I wasn't there, but the man did it twice, okay? The man did it twice, and he was liked as president. Right. And she did not take his advice. She used
him, though. In the debate, she said, against Trump, she said, and if you elect me, you get my husband, and he could handle the economy because, he did it before. No, he didn't. The economy went well under Clinton despite Bill Clinton. It was because the Republicans they took over Congress and they fought tooth and nail with him to not do the extra spending. If you remember that first budget in 93 that the Democrats passed with him, okay, and that he signed into law, that thing saw deficits until as far as the eye could see. All right, that thing was a horrific bill. It was the Republicans who came in after that, and they had all those wars with the Democrats and with Bill Clinton, and doing things like how they said he kept campaigning on, we're going to end welfare as we know it. Remember that? Remember he said, we're going to end welfare as we know it, right? And everybody loved, he's a new Democrat. He's a new Democrat. Don't listen to others, Republican evil. Well, here in the end, the Republicans passed a bill that gave him every single thing he campaigned on for ending welfare as we know it, and he vetoed it. So then the next year, they gave him another bill that gave him, again, every single thing, and he vetoed that. And the thing was, it's just too many cuts and all. No, it was within the millions again, like I said earlier. And so finally, they got him to sign it. You know how? They threatened him. It was Bob Dole and Newt Gingrich went up to the White House, and they sat down with him. And they said, look, you campaigned on ending welfare as we know it. And we all know in this room that to do these welfare reforms is going to help everybody that's on welfare, because living on welfare is not in existence. Okay. It's the government. You're a slave to government when you're on welfare that way. And they weren't talking about people that genuinely, we're talking about generations of people on welfare. And what they wanted to do was to say, okay, you have to work for 5 years in order to maintain welfare. If you're going to get it, you have to get a job, and we're going to put these. It was back in the days where they had these crazy ideas. Oh, we're gonna train you to get a job. Well, anyway, they told him, they said, look, you vetoed it twice. They said, and we know that you're full of shit with your veto, why you vetoed it, and the American people bought it. However, we're going to give it to you again, a third time, same bill. And we know it's the bill that you asked for. And if you veto it a third time, Newt Gingrich said, I swear to God, Mr. President, every single Republican will throw a campaign commercial out there showing a split screen. You on the left side saying we're going to end welfare as we know it in every campaign stop you did. And on the right side, we're going to show all 3 times you vetoed it. And he goes, you got me. And he signed it. And the funny thing was, I remember in New York, Mario Cuomo was the governor at the time. And I remember he was down at the Clinton headquarters there. Okay. And he was running for re-election. And all these people, like 1,000 people, hit that headquarters. And they're all like, what the hell? They were so pissed off that he signed that bill, right? And this is the magic of a Democrat politician. Mario Cuomo came out to them and he signs it. He goes, guys, calm down. I know it's a terrible bill. I agree with you. But the only way to fix it is to re-elect Bill Clinton. They're all like, yeah, forgetting the fact that he just signed the bill. That's how stupid Democrats are. They believe, yeah, let's vote for him. He's going to fix it. Yeah, well, he just signed it. Yeah, how's he going to fix it? He just signed the bill. You know, blame him like you were before you listened to Mario. Oh, man. Good times, right?
Good times. I got to admit, yes, I would say yes, she is a narcissist.
Oh, yeah.
Evidence of that, when in 2016, elections coming up, she's sitting in the White House with President Obama. She's picking curtains and wall colors.
Yeah, I know.
She was already elected.
I know.
Matter. It was all
the New York Times was saying 98% chance. At one point, the WAPO said Trump has 0% chance of winning.
It was a done deal. It was her time. She was going to get it. That was it. She was literally decorating the White House. And, well, then Mr. Trump comes in. And are you a science fiction fan, Rich?
Somewhat, yeah.
Yeah. Isaac Asimov.
I read the Foundation series.
The Foundation series, that's the one. Not the iRobot, but the Foundation series. And it's been a long time since I read it. But
I read most of it.
There's this one guy who is prescient and has pre-recorded things that pop out of this computer every now and then. And they're all very accurate up until this character they call the Mule comes in.
Yeah.
And everything is going, kind of as the universe intended. Then the Mule shows up and upends everything.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is the Mule.
Oh, yeah.
Donald Trump is the Mule. He threw the spanner into the handiworks.
Oh, yeah.
The spanner into the watchworks, as they say overseas. But he's not a politician. That's his best.
She's the one who told people during a debate that they were going to put certain people out of work. It was essentially the learn to code. We will have a facility that will train you how to take on other jobs. And that's like Barack Obama, with the stroke of a pen, put like 1,500 families out of business in West Virginia because he shut down the largest coal mine there. West Virginia went red after that. And she did the same thing. Hillary had no economic plan. Trump's out there talking about all the things that we could do to make America great again, and he wanted to do them. She didn't even have an economic plan. There were several states she never even campaigned in. She just figured out, they're going to love me or else.
No, like I said, it was done deal. It was done deal. Yeah. She was already elected. She was concentrating on decorating the White House. She wasn't campaigning. She didn't need to campaign. It was all hers.
The most ballsy thing about that woman that I still can't get over to this day, because she keeps it up, is right after the election, she didn't know what to say. She was really gobsmacked. She had no idea that was coming. In fact, I saw a video of Hillary, Chelsea, and Bill behind stage, and it was at her headquarters, but they were backstage, and it was just the three of them. and you couldn't hear them because it was music going on out on the other side of the stage. And he was there holding her hands, and Chelsea was there jumping up and down too. And because you could tell he was saying, "You did it. You actually did it." And it was at that point that I was so furious because I thought she won that I was watching Fox, and he goes, "Hey guys," he goes, "I got news here." And he went down the map and he said, all Trump has to do is this, 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 and this. And then as the night went on, he got that, and that, right? So they thought that she won up to the last minute, and then she lost. That's why she didn't come down that night and say anything.
Yeah, she sent her campaign guy there.
Right.
She sent
And
him
she
down.
did. Right. She did Podesta, whoever it was. But the thing of what I don't like about her is that she paid for the dossier. Okay. She paid for that. She and the DNC actually paid for it too. And I think Barack Obama put some money from the White House in there as well. But she paid like $9 million. All right. And that money went to Perkins Coie, which was the law firm that handles, Democrats, right? And Perkins Coie hired Fusion GPS, which Glenn Simpson was a Wall Street Journal guy, and he started that, and that was the opposition research firm. Okay, so far everything's okay because you can buy opposition research. It's a thing, right? But then what they did is they hired Christopher Steele, who's a former British agent and Trump hater. He hated Trump, right? So Christopher Steele then takes the money and he goes and pays these Russian FSB officers for dirt on Trump. They give him a load of garbage and they walk away laughing, counting their rubles, right? So it turns out that the dossier was written by the wife of of Bruce Orr. Bruce Orr, under Obama, was the deputy assistant attorney general. Okay. And he told her name was Nellie Orr. Bruce told McCabe, told Comey, told Weissman, Andrew Weissman, that scumbag lawyer that got a 9-0 overturn when he went after a Republican in Alaska. He's a scumbag, just like Jack Smith. He'll do anything, he'll break any rules, right? So here he went and got them all in a room and said, okay, I know you guys are looking for Oppo research, but do not use this dossier. I happen to know that it's garbage. There's nothing to it. Do not use it. And he knew because his wife was writing it for them. Her specialty was Russia, right? And so they hired her to do it. The dossier was a remake of a script that was done years prior that was written by Glenn Simpson of the Wall Street Journal. And they were going to use it against John McCain. Okay. And so what they did is they were like, look, you have to understand something. The NSA is the largest database that the government has in the world. It's the largest one. Now, from time to time, the government hires outside contractors that need to do work for them, and they need to hit that database. Okay, so it's a known thing that sometimes contractors do hit that database. They got to get the clearances and all that shit. So one day, I think it was Admiral Mike Kelly. He was the NSA director, and he walks into his office and he takes a look at the screen and he sees that there is a shitload of traffic on their database, and he's wondering what the hell is going on here, right? So he goes and he questions someone, goes, what is this? Who's on here? And they say, oh, there's a lot of people that were hired by the Obama people, by the White House, and they're doing Oppo research. Well, he shut it down. He said, I don't want opposition research to be in that database, just outside contractors having access to our database. Are you kidding me? Right? So he shuts it down. So the people who were behind this trying to screw Trump for Hillary, because they knew Hillary was a terrible candidate, worst candidate any party ever nominated. Nobody liked her. I don't think her parents even liked her. But so it turns out that he shuts that down. Now they don't have all the data they can grab to get any dirt on Trump, right? Or anybody in his orbit, right? So they got to go another way, right? So that's when they went for the dossier, because then they wanted all that trash, the Alpha Bank stuff, the Carter Page George Papadopoulos, all that crap was then made up then. Okay. Now here's where, sorry, I had to take everybody down that road, but here's what I didn't like about her. So she loses anyway, right? After all the Russian bullshit, all that collusion, all that shit. And then she goes on, she writes a book, What Happened? And the answer was Trump happened. But no, that's not her answer, right? So she goes on a book tour and she says on every single stage, she says, you know, you can run the perfect campaign and you could do everything right and you can have it stolen from you. And she went around saying that the Russians helped Trump steal the election with collusion and the dossier that she freaking paid for. She paid for that. She knew she was lying, but she had that sympathetic look. She's a fucking sociopath to be able to do that, Jade, to be able to look in America's eye and say, I had the election stolen from me. To this day, well, he was an illegitimate president. You know, the Russians helped. I mean, she still says it to this day. And the worst part is we have such a corrupt media that no one said, well, wait a minute, you paid for the dossier. What the hell are you talking about?
No, what they're busy doing instead of criticizing Trump for questioning the election.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know? Yeah. But,
well,
but
I agree with that. More people liked Hillary than liked Kamala.
Yeah.
You know what it comes. You know what it comes down to, Rich. Though.
What's that?
And I'm going to say this in front of our millions of followers here because I think you deserve this. You know,
I wish my tens of followers.
Yeah, you and I have bounced this around a bit. Thank God Hillary didn't get elected because we would never know any of this. She would have had this stuff buried
under the rug. Yeah.
Nobody, and if anybody found it out, they'd be in jail.
Do you know what's funny? You say that because do you remember when Trump and she did that commander-in-chief thing? It wasn't a debate, but they brought Trump out and they would ask him questions that a commander-in-chief should know and answer, right? Then he got off and they brought her in and asked her questions. Well, the guy that asked her that did that, the moderator was what the hell is his name? The guy that was I think he was thrown out of ABC because he used to rape women all the time. That guy, balding guy, used to be a car salesman. Then they brought him in. He was their star, and he had like literally on the desk of his office, he had a button. If he pushed it, it locked his door so the girls can't get out. This really happened, right? So he was thrown out on his ass, right?
Yeah, I may have heard that, but let me tell you, I have not watched legacy news in about 30 years. Okay, but let me finish my thought though. Let me finish my thought because this is where I'm going with this. Thank God for people like you. Thank the stars and thank whoever you pray to for people like Rich, because this is how we know what we know. Rich, you'd probably be in jail now. I know. I used to say back not too long ago.
Checks in the mail, by the way. Go ahead.
Thank you. Did you get the zeros right?
I did.
I always used to say if I woke up one day and I had in my hand a piece of incontrovertible evidence against Hillary, I would burn it.
Oh yeah.
I would burn it.
You could wind up dead.
I'd end up dead.
Yeah, you could wind up dead.
So if she would have been elected, we would all believe the Steele dossier was true.
Right,
we would all believe the Russian collusion story.
Trump would be in prison.
We would all believe all of this.
Oh yeah.
And that's the thing. If you do nothing but watch CNN and MSNBC, you know, the 12 people that are left that still watch CNN, if you actually only ever watched CNN and MSNBC, yes, Vance just said thank you. I thank Rich for being one of the people who does this research and brings this.
I was always hoping people like, hey, what's up, Gina? How you doing, girl? I was always hoping people would be appreciative of the videos that I do, because I try to do stories that other guys aren't doing, and there's like always a story in there that's interesting to me.
Yeah, and you do the research and you come up with, you come up with the facts. And
yeah.
And the thing is, put it this way, it's like kids that are brainwashed from the time they can talk that this is what you like and this is what you hate.
Right, right.
You know, you're gonna hate these people and you're gonna like these people, and you grow up, and that's just how you grow up, and that's what you think. So, if Hillary would have been elected,
well,
we would have been bombarded.
To support your theory here, let me finish my story. So,
yeah,
at that commander in chief thing, Trump did really well. He answered every question really well. And she was going to do really well, too. We found out later that she had all the questions right beforehand. But the moderator threw in a couple that he was not supposed to. And one of them was about her email server, her private email server. Like, why does she think she could become president when she violated the Espionage Act and shit like that, right? So she bullshit her way out of it and he let her go. But he did put that out there, right? Which was very unusual because he was a Democrat, obviously, because he was in the media, right? And you know, anyway, there was a woman who worked for the studio, and she was a sound woman, and she said that she was backstage when Hillary got off stage, and she was far enough away that the people out there couldn't hear anymore. And she said she heard her say, "What the hell was that? That wasn't supposed to happen." And then about Trump, he literally said, "If that motherfucker wins, we all hang." That's what she said. And of course, they deny Mrs. Clinton never said anything like that. But I believe the lowly worker who was backstage that heard it and like leaked it. If that MFer wins, we all hang. That's what she shouted. So in other words, you're right. She would have wiped everything under there, but nobody hung, right? Trump's biggest mistake, I thought, was when he got elected. He said, I'm not going to prosecute her. And he said, I think they've suffered enough. Big mistake. Because she tried to sabotage him the rest of the time he was there. Yeah. Questions from Donna Brazil. She got the questions from Donna Brazil, who was the DNC interim chairwoman, because Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the Ronald McDonald in address, she destroyed the DNC, right? She bankrupted it, but then she rigged the election, the primary for Hillary. Did you know that? She rigged the primary for Hillary. And that's why the Bernie bros were so upset, and they had a right to be upset. But they took them.
The primary, I don't know, at least to the Democrats, the primaries for sure are already, preordained.
Well, what happened here was Bernie was winning, and Bernie was going to win.
Yeah, but they didn't want Bernie.
Right. And so what happened
Bernie wasn't going to win.
What happened was Barack Obama left the DNC penniless. Okay, he spent all their money. He did, right? On his projects. He just took their money. And so they had no money to give to Democrats to run campaigns all across the country. So Hillary found that out, and she went up to Wasserman Schultz and said, look, I'll fund all your campaigns. You just rigged the primary. And she went, you got a deal. So they did. Well, how do we know this? Because they were taken to court. The DNC was taken to court for doing that. And the judge ruled in the end, the Democratic National Committee is not a government institution. It is a private organization. They can do whatever the hell they want. Case closed. But my point was, okay, but what about the people who thought that they had an open primary and they donated a boatload of money to Bernie? Well, that's fraud. Because if the DNC can then just, rig it for Hillary against Bernie, because Bernie was going to win that until they rigged it when they got their money.
Yeah, they didn't want Bernie for whatever reason.
So if they could rig that primary, what makes anybody, and we know it because it was in court, they admitted it in the end. So if they could rig a primary, what makes people think the DNC couldn't come up with a way to rig 2020?
Listen, when some counties came in with 105% ballot return.
Yeah.
And then things like in Arizona, if you take a look at the governor's race and you overlap the red versus blue counties with the counties that had those voting machines go awry and not work.
Yeah.
It's like a 99% concordance that it was the red districts that they stopped working.
Right. They always did.
And then when they sent these people you have to go to the different polling station. They'd go to the different polling station, and they were told, well, you already voted. So they couldn't. Oh, you just froze up. Okay, I don't know if I'm alone here or what's going on. Rich is frozen. Rich is I guess we were both frozen, actually. There's nothing. Oh, no, I'm there. Okay, Rich, you're frozen. Well. Okay, looks like Rich is gone. Anybody still left in the chat?
Sorry about that. I temporarily lost internet.
Yeah, I was alone for a bit. I felt lonely.
Did you take over the show?
I did.
Yeah, I actually lost. I'm like, what the
awesome.
hell just happened? Because you froze at first, and then I'm like, uh-oh.
It was awesome. I went, Rich, you're frozen. What's going on?
Yeah.
And then,
thanks, Jim.
And then I said, is anybody still in the chat? And that was it.
Jimmy, you want to come in? I'll put the invite out. There we go. Yeah, I can't believe I like suddenly lost internet.
Yeah, we would be in a very, very different world had Hillary been elected.
Yes, very much so.
And we wouldn't know it. That's the thing.
Well, I remember when Dinesh D'Souza, when he did an interview on Glenn Beck's show, and he said, so, what do you think Hillary would be like as president? And he said, well, she would be a control freak. He said she wouldn't just control with an iron fist corporations, but every American as well. And I think what he was getting at, that is my brother. I think what he was getting at was they were supposed to do. What's all that noise, Jim?
Is there noise?
There's a lot of noise, man.
That might be you're on the laptop. Hold on.
Yeah. But what's called? I'm gonna mute that till he gets out into another area. But what's called? Yeah, that he said that she would be a control freak. They believe that she was supposed to start. I unmuted you, Jim. They believe that she was supposed to be the one to do what Biden's doing, which is the whole the COVID thing. Like maybe it wasn't going to be COVID, it was going to be something, right? But she was supposed to be the control freak and get us all in line.
That was already in 2016. That was already, and it fell through. So they made sure that in 2020 that they were going to take care of that. And yeah, we were talking about the elections. That's right.
Yeah.
The interesting thing, and I'm sure everybody will agree, the Democrats have always had a better machine.
Oh, yeah.
They always had a better machine. They've always been much more coordinated. Republicans, they're always arguing with themselves.
Yeah.
And so once they decide something, they decide that it's not going to be Bernie. That's it. It's not going to be Bernie. They're all voting together. It's just the way it's going to go.
The way I look at it is Republicans run campaigns and Democrats don't run campaigns. They run elections.
Yeah.
So the difference is the Republicans are out there saying to everybody, hey, vote for me because this is what I want to do, right?
Okay, you froze up again. Now we lost Jimmy.
Oh, wow. Let me
see.
Okay,
you're back.
Oh, geez. I don't know dude, I've never had internet problems ever.
Maybe
ever.
Is it my bad juju?
No, your juju's just fine. No, it's I don't know what's going on. It must be something in the area. Must be something going on in the area. Let me bring Jimmy back in. There you are. Sorry about that. Yeah. So the Republicans try to convince people to vote for them, whereas the Democrats work on campaigns. So in other words, they work on ways to just get more votes, legal or not.
Yeah. Yeah. And 81 million bobbleheads.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
it's
you.
The
Yeah.
Cage Show.
Well, it was my show for about 15 seconds there. Yeah, 81 million. When you take a look, I mean, obviously there was election interference. Just look at the media.
Oh yeah.
The media before, I mean,
in-kind donations every day.
You know, and I personally saw a video. Was out of Georgia, and they were at a ballot counting station, and it showed the poll watchers. First of all, they were at one end of the room. They weren't allowed to mingle. They were at one end of the room. So then somebody tells them, "Okay, we're done. We're just going to clean up and leave, so you guys can go." So they say, "Okay, thanks." It's late at night. They go across the street to get something to eat. An hour or two later, a security guard goes over and says, "What are you guys doing over here?" "What do you mean?" "Well, the guys are still counting ballots back there." And so the poll watchers are going, wait a minute. So they go back. But the video I saw was an outtake from one of the polls. And you see in the foreground, there's like a table, nondescript type of table with a cloth over it. And then they close down. And at one point, somebody goes over, pulls the table, which is obviously on wheels, over, uncovers it. And there's, I don't know how many boxes, those file folder boxes. And they start taking one another, and they take ballots out of them and start feeding them into the machine.
Oh, yeah.
And then I saw one where this lady feeds a bunch of ballots into the machine, and she goes to the other end. She grabs them, squares them up like she's going to file them, takes them back, puts them through again.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, they did this. Yeah. Well, they had one. There's a woman, Suzanne Voiles is her name. She was a precinct manager in, I forget what township it was, but it's in Fulton County, Georgia. And she's doing it over 20 years. And in 2020, she saw that there were like 10,000. It was like 10 reams of 1,000 each, the size of reams of mail-in ballots that came in. And they only had Joe Biden on it. Nobody else was voted for but Joe Biden. And they when they filled the circle in, they made a very distinctive mark outside the circle, and all 10,000 of them had that same mark. So what does that tell you? They Xeroxed it, right? So
Rich, happened again. Yeah.
Space again. I'm in cyberspace again. God damn.
Yeah,
so
you got frozen out again.
I know. She said the most interesting part about these 10,000 mail-in ballots that came is they have no folds in the paper. So how do you get it into an envelope, size 10 envelope, without folding the paper? And nobody cared about that.
Yeah, you wonder where those were printed.
Well, what happened was there was another case going on that fell in with this, and the judge said, "Look, I'm going to order these boxes of these ballots to be locked in the warehouse and have yellow tape around. Nobody can touch them until this court case I'm working on is over." In the interim, Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger sent some goons over that are agents working for the state. They went into the warehouse. They violated the seal. And guess what they took? And guess what security camera just happened to be broken at the time? And they took them. And Suzanne Voiles, or Susie Voiles, whatever her name is, she had said that that they call, like, what is it, GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigation? They brought her in and tried to get her to lie and say, no, I made a mistake. And she said, look, guys, I've been doing this for 22 years. I know a ballot when I see a ballot. I know that it wasn't folded, and I know that it was the same little mark on each one. But they tried for hours to get her to change her mind, and she didn't. And so they stole the evidence. I mean, no, I don't have proof positive they did, but do you know of any thieves that would break into a warehouse and the only thing they took had yellow tape around it and they cut through it and they took them and ran off? I've never heard of that kind of crime,
What about Dinesh D'Souza's movie?
Yeah, I know.
What's it called?
2,000 Mules.
Thank you.
That was a great movie.
I mean, so
Philadelphia was the worst, by the way.
Who?
Philadelphia was the worst of them, he said. Yeah. Over 1,000 mules.
Tell me about Pennsylvania. They tell me Trump is winning like by 0.02.
No, he was essentially, I think what D'Souza found out, and this was through True to Vote.
No, I mean now.
Oh, now? Yeah, he's ahead now, but it doesn't matter because they're going to steal it. They're already planning. Look, let me put it this way. Okay. In 2020, our attorney general, okay, he did not take on a single case of the hundreds of people that filed that they witnessed election fraud in the vote counting centers, right? He didn't do he just ignored them, all right, throughout the process. He's the same one that a few days before the election day, he tweeted out the old, remember everybody, it's going to look like Donald Trump won on election day, but when all the votes are counted, you know that Biden's going to win. So he was telling us, hey guys, we're going to steal it. I mean, that's what the message was, right? So it turns out that he's now our governor. So what makes anybody think that they're going to, he was in on the whole steal. He didn't do a goddamn thing about anybody, the complaints that they filed. And I don't know if you know this, but all the key battleground states, Detroit, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin even did it. What was the other one? Not Ohio. I forget. There was another one, but yeah, Maricopa. They all their state legislatures ran hearings. They ran hearings where they brought whistleblowers, they brought data experts in, and people that worked watching the polls. They all had these hearings, and they were televised on YouTube. As a matter of fact, in fact, the Georgia ones are still on YouTube. They haven't deleted them yet. YouTube hasn't gotten around to getting rid of them. And my friend Mark, who I've had on 2 times already, he testified at that one hearing in Georgia and said, "Look, this is what I found." Right? So it turns out that the people, it was a perfect storm. The people who were in charge of states at that time were the perfect people for the Democrats to have it in charge at that time in order to steal it.
Arizona, Katie Hobbs.
Yeah, well, Maricopa County is the only, and that's the largest county where most people live. It is the only county in the entire country, okay, where the ballots do not go to the vote counting center first. They go to a private company, Pitney something. They go to a private company a few miles down the road where they get sorted properly, and then they go to the vote counting. And there's no observers at that facility.
And I'm sure it's perfectly above board.
It's pristine, you bigot. Yeah, so think about it. That's where they steal it.
Well,
and then they send it over. And they count. They go, it's a landslide. Katie Hobbs.
Is it theft if you can do it legally? Katie Hobbs was, what was she, lieutenant governor?
No, she was the Secretary of State.
Secretary of State. That's right.
She should have recused herself, and she didn't. In fact, she made a couple of orders that helped her.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the one in charge of counting the votes and you're running the election, isn't that a little suspicious?
Yeah, well, you would think so. But not if you're a Democrat, I guess.
Evidently not if you're a Democrat. You know, when you have people like Vladimir Putin, which I don't know. You tell me, do the people like him? I guess he got 80 or 85% of the vote in this recent election.
Yeah.
You tell me, do his people love him? But when you have people like that publicly saying that, you know, with the finger,
Yeah.
that, yeah, fortifying. When you got him very publicly saying with the finger, the United States has no right to criticize anybody else's,
Yeah.
you know, cannot say anything about democracy and freedom anymore. You know, you know, think what you want about Putin, but when you've got somebody like that, excuse me. Yeah.
Look what happened with Tony Blinken. Tony Blinken goes in and has his team, and they sit down at a conference table, and across from them are their counterparts from China. So they're talking about, you know, what they want to do and what's wrong with the other. So the Chinese people turn around and go, well, why should we listen to anything you say? You guys brag that you're systemically racist in this country.
Yeah.
They use their own words against them, and Blinken's like sitting there like, I don't know what to do. You remember that?
Yeah, you know, that's what they do, though. Yes. Yeah, I mean, this is what they do when you have
exactly. They think they want us to think that he blew up his own pipeline. I'm going to get those Americans and those Ukrainians. I'm going to blow up my own pipeline.
Yeah, shoot your toe off just to. What was I going to say?
Sorry, I interrupted.
Thought went out of my head.
I know. I have Sometimers disease all the time now.
But yeah, Putin has a point. But yeah. Oh, that's what I was going to say. You know, when they have these DEI things in there, I mean, the rest of the world is laughing because
they are.
That's the most racist thing that I've ever heard of.
And they say that that's supposed to stop racism.
No, but what it's really saying is that minorities cannot help themselves and they can't make anything of themselves without the assistance of the white upper class white Karen helping them. And and as long as you don't do it in my backyard, that's great. But
right.
You know,
that's like what we talked about earlier. Like, I mean, how would Democrats get elected by saying, well, you know, black people are too stupid to get an ID. Therefore, we can't have voter ID. Vote for me. You know, I mean, how the hell do they get away with that?
It's the most racist thing that I've ever heard.
Who was the guy? Guys, if you remember who it was, please put it in the chat. There was a guy that went out there and he literally interviewed a bunch of black people.
Yes.
And he said, so is it true that you guys are too stupid to know how to get ID? They're like, what? And he goes, I heard black people don't know how to get IDs. They're like, I have ID. What are you talking about? Oh, you have ID? Yeah, I got a driver's license. I got to use it all the time. How did you get the driver? I applied for it.
I know who it is. I can't think of it. But yeah, it was a man on the street interview. And he said,
yeah, it was great.
And he was talking to, you know, all kinds of different people. You know, not that I've gone out of my way to ask, but anyone with whom I've had that conversation, it's just like, say what?
Yeah, they're like, what are you talking about?
I can't get what?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, look, voter ID would end a lot of the cheating. It just until they figure out how to get fake ID that looks real and registered in the databases and all that. But no, it wasn't Mark Dice. Although that's a good guess, Bob.
That is very good guess.
It was some guy, Aaron, or he has like a foreign sounding name.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I remember seeing the video.
Yeah, and he just went around asking all the black people, and they're like, "Well, yeah, I have several forms of ID." He's like, "Oh my God, really?" It was so funny.
Yeah, and it was. Yeah, I remember the film, and I can't. And Mark
How degrading is that?
Yeah.
That they say, oh well, and a lot of black people are like, yeah, I'll go along with it if it helps us win.
Yeah, and you know what it is
I would be so insulted.
They're there, dear. We'll take care of you. Don't worry about it. We know you can't do it yourself.
The good thing, though, Jade, is that they understand it now.
They're starting.
Amy Horowitz. That's it. That was the guy. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you.
It's Amy Horowitz. He's the guy that did it. He does really good interviews like that.
Yeah, I saw that.
Man on the street. Yeah.
I saw that video.
But a good thing is a lot of Black Americans are catching on to the tricks of the Democratic Party. The Democrats told them for decades, stick with us because those guys are racist. They hate you. We're going to make your life better. And they never came through. Trump comes along, an outsider, right? He actually does a lot of the things that they were telling him they would do for decades and never did. He did it and made it look easy, and they hate him even more for it.
Yep.
The Democrats. They hate him even more.
Johnson is quoted. Well, before I go there, Biden, and I'm sure you know this. Do you remember the Biden statement where he was against?
Don't say the N-word. We can't say that.
I'm not going to say that.
I thought you were going to quote Johnson.
Well, I am, but I'm going to leave out some essentials.
Yeah.
But Biden said Biden was against busing. But,
yeah, I know he was.
But and the reason he gave is he doesn't want his kids to grow up in a racial jungle.
Racial jungle.
I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he said.
Right.
Now, Johnson, he had a little more to say about it. He said, give them, he didn't say them, he said, give that.
Right.
Give them, and I forget what it was they were talking about, but give them this and they'll vote for us forever.
Well, he was on a flight and it was the, who was it? It was an assistant secretary who overheard it and put it in a book that he wrote. And he said, because they just said, you just got the 64 civil rights bill passed. How do you feel? And they started talking about it. And he said, I'll have them, bad word, voting Democrat for the next 200 years. Now, a lot of people dispute that he said it, right? But if you know anything, if you studied anything about Johnson, he was a very despicable man. Like he was an incredibly despicable man, because Johnson would have never gotten the 64 civil rights bill passed if it weren't for Republican help, because there were many Democrats that were against it. You know who voted against it? Al Gore's father, Al Gore Sr. And you remember when Al Gore, when he was running for president, and he said, during a debate, my father lost his seat in Congress because of his stance for civil rights. Al Gore's father voted against the 64 civil rights bill.
I didn't know that.
Against it.
I did not know that.
Here's the thing. This is why I think that Johnson's despicable, because there were several Republicans that really whipped up the votes for him to put him over the top. And during the signing ceremony, Johnson did not invite a single one of them to the signing ceremony. They were all Democrats there. He's a despicable piece of crap. Yeah, I believe that too. Well, Tucker Carlson got that info, right? And he did several segments on it, which pissed off the DC crap game. But
well,
it was,
you want to know about Kennedy. The important thing, I think, to think about Kennedy, everybody has these theories, right?
Yeah.
But boil it down to a couple of facts. After the assassination, everything, including the autopsy reports, were all sealed. Okay.
Yeah.
They were sealed for 25 years.
Right.
25 years later, everybody's going, oh, good, we're going to see what's in there. They're sealed again.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's start thinking, who has the juice to do that? Okay. Start listing. Obviously, CIA, NSA, FBI, maybe the mafia.
Alphabet people, yeah.
A lot of the alphabet people, maybe the mafia, Johnson and crew. I don't know who pulled the trigger, but I can tell you it wasn't one guy. Because if it was one guy in the fifth floor of the Texas book depository, we would know a lot more about it.
Yeah.
The fact is, who was involved was someone that was able had the power to seal those files. And this is a rabbit hole that a lot of people have gone down. But the fact is, those shots could not have been made in that time frame with that rifle, period.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I saw that movie that did, not the one with Kevin Costner. It was another movie that was out that went over the ballistics and everything on that.
Because the Mannlicher Carcano 6.5 was one of the worst rifles of that era. It had an offset to the side scope, which makes accurate fire, except at one very specific distance, extremely difficult because it's offset above and to one side of the barrel. The one thing they did not take into account was an old gentleman by the name of Abraham Zapruder.
Zapruder, yeah. There's a Zapruder film on it.
And the big thing about the Zapruder film was they got the sounds. They could see how long it took to fire the shots. You take the Mannlicher Carcano, you cannot do aimed fire that quickly with that good of shooting. I've seen somebody try and prove that they could, and sure enough, they got off 3 shots in the time it took.
Oh, wow.
Film. Well, yes, but all they did was they showed you the guy from the side. They didn't show you the target. So what he did, he pulled the trigger, quickly racked it, pulled the trigger, quickly racked it. The fact is, aimed fire with that rifle.
Yeah.
You really just could not have pulled those shots off in the time frame found on the Zapruder film. Not possible.
Yeah.
So
I'll bet.
Not accurate fire. And
well, it was my dumbass senator. It was Arlen Specter who came out with the magic bullet theory.
Oh yeah, the one that went up and down.
The bullet came here, and in midair, it did a 180, and
came back, did a round, did a circle, came back through the other guy, and then was that the one found like lying on the stretcher?
Yeah.
After
Yeah. And then what was it? They took his brain, didn't they?
You know, nobody really knows because they took him over to the Dallas hospital, I forget, and then what they pretty much immediately did, they came in, they demanded all the records, they talked to all the medical staff, they boxed him up and took him over to Bethesda.
Oh, wow.
And they said, nobody's going to talk about this, right? And the next thing you know, the autopsy report comes out of Bethesda. And from what I understand, one of the guys that had treated him on the initial, at the first hospital,
right,
basically kind of said, kind of, you know, but yeah, that was not above board. So
right.
Who did it? Who did it? It wasn't one person. One person wouldn't have had the juice to seal all those files and hide them away.
Right.
You know, could have been the KGB. It could have been, you know, but we're talking people with a lot of authority here.
Oh yeah.
And then enough authority that they were able to get a know-nothing, not quite a mobster by the name of Jack Ruby.
Right.
To then close the final door.
Yeah, he was dying of cancer, and they gave a payoff to his family.
Yeah, they said, okay, and so
well Oswald himself kept saying, I was a patsy. They made me a patsy.
Yeah,
he kept saying it.
Yeah, he denied it. Now, I mean, he was a commie and he was all kinds of other things. But
right.
I can tell you, the single gunman theory is the one thing I am absolutely sure is not true.
Oh yeah, it's not true.
That can't be. It didn't happen that way. At the autopsy report, somebody was just commenting on the autopsy. Yeah, the autopsy. Yeah, there it is. The wounds. My understanding is years later, one of the original doctors that treated Kennedy in the hospital said that the autopsy report was just not quite. And yes, Johnson benefited. And does everybody know that Kennedy hated Johnson?
Yeah.
And there's only one reason that he had Johnson.
Reagan hated Bush.
Yeah. The only reason Kennedy had Johnson was because he wanted to grab some votes from Texas.
Yep.
That's the only reason. They despised each other.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they thought, oh yeah, they despised each other big time. But
well, Kennedy also pissed off a lot of people because JFK would have a cabinet meeting, right? And it was very typical that he would say, like, Secretary of Transportation, what's your budget this year? And he, rattle off a number, and he'd go, well, I made phone calls to because every secretary has a secretary who has a secretary who has all the way down to the street level. And he would say, well, I called his people called all of those, and they gave their balances, and you're off. Why do you have so much more than what they're saying theirs are added to it? And he would do that all the time, I guess, to show he was in charge and he wasn't buying their bullshit anymore. And so
he wasn't playing the game.
Right. And if you remember, they embarrassed him more than once, as a matter of fact. But the whole where they put missiles on Cuba, and he complained to the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union said, you've got missiles 90 miles off my coast. And they said, who the hell are you to talk? You've got missiles 75 miles off my coast. Right. And he was like, no, I told my people to take them out, and they told me they did. He goes, well, they're still there. And they did that intentionally to embarrass him because he did stuff like that to cabinet members.
Well, when you don't play the game, it's just like with Trump. They were saying, "Oh yeah, we did this, that, and the other. We took these troops out," and it wasn't true.
Right.
They weren't telling him who was there and who was doing what. The commander in chief. They were lying.
Right. Well, look what they did to Trump. You had these two asshole former officers who wrote to militarynews.com, and they published it. It was like an op-ed, but they published it saying that if Donald Trump doesn't leave office, if he loses, he was talking to Milley, right? Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and he said, you need to get a contingency up of soldiers that will go in there and drag his ass out of the White House. Do you know that Milley actually did that? He created a group of soldiers who would go in and march Trump out if he didn't leave. That was all started by Bill Maher. Bill Maher was the one who started saying, Trump's not going to leave. You watch. He's going to lose, and he will not leave. And Donald Trump, when it finally got real big one time, he was saying at a rally, he goes, if I lose the election, of course I'm going to leave. He goes, when did I ever say I wouldn't leave? And he never did say he wouldn't leave. And in fact, he left early. They were all saying, oh, it's January 6th stuff. He's not going to leave. And he actually left early. He left on that day, but he never went to the ceremony. He said, screw you. You stole it from me. I want nothing to do with you.
Well, Mark Milley is a traitor.
Oh, there's no question. You know what he did, among other things? When Trump made the deal with the Taliban, Trump wanted to get us out of Afghanistan. Okay. He figured, okay, so the Taliban they're going to go back in charge, but you know what? That's their problem. And as long as we keep a contingency in the larger Air Force, the larger airport, Bagram, yeah. As long as we do that, and Kabul will get out that way. Well, what happened was Mark Milley didn't like that. He was one of those, like rhino establishment types, like war, right? So he wanted to keep us in there. And so what did he do? He went to his friends in the Pentagon. He still had friends in the Pentagon. You know that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs does not have a command. Like there's nobody under him. He rules over. He's just an advisor to the president and sometimes the vice president. That's all his job is. Okay. But because he he was a general, so he used to have a command. He still had friends. And so he calls the Pentagon and he has them do, I can't remember the numbers, but it was something like 21 night raids on Taliban positions in Afghanistan. And they did a lot of drone bombings as well, while Trump is trying to negotiate with them. And they never told the commander in chief they were going to do this, but they did it to piss off the Taliban. So they walked away from the deal. But they were so dispersed around the country, and they didn't have any real, they didn't have a command line, like who was in charge, who's your officer and all that. So it never really made it to the top guys doing the negotiating table stuff. But he literally did that to screw Trump over. And he did several other things like that. When he called China, he called his counterpart in China saying that, don't worry, we're not going to bomb it. And even if he orders it, we won't do it. What in the hell?
Yep, he did that. Wasn't he also the one that was planning to invade Iran?
Oh, I don't know about that.
Wasn't he? They
really
kept bugging Trump to go into Iran. That was the plan. Yeah. That was the plan. If Hillary was going to be elected in 2016, Iran was going to be on the dinner table.
Wow.
And I thought Mark Milley had something to do with that, but they had those. Donald Trump is living rent free in all their heads. That's
and he's going, wow, what a shithole.
Yeah, ain't no room with a view here, boy.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were all kinds. They were ready to go, and my understanding is, I don't have inside information, but from what I've gleaned, they were looking at going into Iran. The warmongers wanted to go into
Iran. The Dems wanted to go into Iran, or was it the rhinos?
The Uniparty.
It's probably the Uniparty with Lindsey Graham.
The deep state.
Yeah.
The deep state.
Yeah.
And apparently during most of his presidency, they were bugging Trump they wanted to go into Iran. He
didn't want any wars.
Here's the thing. War is good business. You know that, Rich.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know that because Raytheon stock goes down. The CEO of Raytheon calls a few senators.
Yeah. Start a war.
That's what happens.
Yeah, I know it does. I know.
That's what happens.
Oh, yeah.
War is big business. Do you remember when we went into Ukraine after we sent the first shipment of however many billions over there? Like a week later, Speaker of the House Pelosi, in a private jet with her entourage and her son, flies over to Ukraine.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yep.
Okay. Explain to me why the Secretary of State is flying into an active war zone. I mean, call it a special military operation or call it whatever you want. Why is the Secretary of State flying into...
You mean the Speaker of the House?
I'm sorry, Speaker of the House.
Yeah.
What did I say? Secretary. No,
yeah, that's right.
Speaker of the House. Nancy Pelosi, her son, an entourage in a private jet. And they needed
They had deals they had to shut down.
What's that?
They had deals they had to shut down. So they had
to
go.
Yeah, and you know, you need a private jet to bring that pallet of whatever you're bringing back. I mean,
I've played audio files of Joe Biden on the phone with Petro Poroshenko, who was the president of Ukraine before Zelensky, and he's telling him, I have the files. He's telling him to get on the governor of Privat Bank, the president of Privat Bank, and tell her to shut down the operation because it's getting really close. I don't want Trump coming in and seeing these lines of money going out and thinking that we're going to be sending more money to you. That was the money laundering operation.
Everybody thinks, oh, poor Ukraine. Okay. I mean, I'm not in favor. I think that it was very wrong to invade Ukraine. But let's not forget that Ukraine was known as the money laundering country.
They were the DNC's ATM for years.
Yes. And so, yeah, whatever, pallets of $100 bills, I don't know what they brought back. But since when does the Speaker of the House fly to a war zone? The thing blew my mind. What about the video of Biden talking to people, bragging how he spoke to Poroshenko and got the special investigator?
He got Victor Shokin fired, right? Son of a bitch. He was fired. But you know what's funny?
Son of a bitch. He got fired when he was looking into Burisma.
At the time period, like when you're in the president-elect, that's when you gather all your belongings, you get ready to leave and all that. While everybody in the White House was doing that, Joe Biden did not. You know what he was doing? He flew over to Ukraine. Why did he go to Ukraine? Because he had some face-to-face things that he had some very sensitive things that he didn't want to do on the telephone. He literally flew to Europe, Eastern Europe, to shut these things down and to threaten people. And as a matter of fact, when he's talked to Poroshenko about that, he threatened him at the end of the message. He said, so if you get her to shut that down, she's got 7 days to do it. He goes, and if you do, he goes, then that IMF loan will come through. In other words, I'm going to stop the IMF loan that you're looking for if you don't do this. And he literally said it is best for how do you say it? He said it's best for your government or your country and personal security. What? Vice president said that to the president of another country.
Yeah, and that was the one where I think Poroshenko responded, you can't do that. You're not the president. And Vice President Biden says,
let me get him on the phone.
Watch me. I'll get him on the phone.
He goes, you want to talk to him? I'll get him on the phone. And everybody laughed. Oh, very funny. Right. But then you know what they did? They already answered to that. And they said, well, the reason why he did that with the Council on Foreign Relations is because Victor Shokin was a corrupt DA. But here's the problem with that. I have another audio file of Poroshenko talking again to Biden on the phone, different time. And he said, even though we have done a full investigation and we saw that there was no corruption, he did absolutely nothing wrong. I asked for his resignation and he accepted. And the one-word response was, good.
I think I've heard that one somewhere.
Yeah. I played it on a couple of my videos.
Yeah, because
and the media goes, I never heard that, the conspiracy theory. And it's like it's fucking Biden's voice. It was before all this deep fakes came out. It's his voice. He's talking to Poroshenko. And that one, and guess what? That phone call is on YouTube. You can get it on YouTube. In fact, I talked about it like a year ago. Then I did a video on it a couple months ago, and Bongino played it. Bongino got 10 million hits. I got 20.
Yeah, there you go. All right. You realize that we've been on here like 4 hours?
Yeah, it's almost 4 hours. I was just going to say I got to shut this thing down.
Yeah, I think
dogs I got to let out.
We've done as much damage. Anybody got any comments? Anybody got any questions?
Yeah, I should have said in the beginning, pay attention because I'm asking questions later.
Yeah, pay attention.
Yeah.
All right, what's this one?
Let me see.
Yeah. Good luck.
Late dinner. There you go, Bob.
Oh, well, thank you.
On, man.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
I appreciate that. I had nothing to talk about, but somehow we talked for 4 hours.
There you go. Well, I did the talking mostly in the first hour, so I went over all those stories.
What did I call you last week or the week before? Chatty Cathy?
Yeah, there you go. Chatty Cathy. I hadn't heard that in eons.
You know what, Chatty Cathy? Chatty Cathy was an actual doll.
Yeah, it was a doll. Chatty Cathy doll. Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, Rich.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much for showing up. I really appreciate it. I'm going to try to do this every Friday night now. Try to build up the subscribership. If you haven't, hit the like button, please, before you go. It helps with the algorithm. If you're in here watching and you like my videos or you like what we said tonight, having fun, talking politics, do me a favor and subscribe. Tell your friends, subscribe. Always helps.
Send your friends a share.
Yeah. Share with your friends, please. Hit that like button.
And if you got any topics, I'll probably join Rich maybe even next Friday.
Yeah. Oh, I'm here next Friday. Yeah. All right, guys. Happy Easter. Happy holiday. Whatever you guys are calling it.
Talk to you later, Rich.
Thank you, Linda. All right, guys.
I'm out of here.
Thanks, Jade. Take care, guys. All right, I'm out. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Good night.